Hey, everybody. Welcome to day 3. And then I'm also going to do day 4 along with the verdict. We're starting, the judge has sent for the jury, and so the jury is coming in, and we will have rebuttal from the state. So get ready.
Okay, everybody can be seated. All right, members of the jury, before we, yesterday, since yesterday, have any of you received any information about this case, done any research, seen anything on the internet or in the media about this case since yesterday? All right, all the jurors are shaking their heads no. Also, let me remind you that any questions you may have can only be submitted after deliberations have begun, and you will get an instruction in the final instructions about that process. When we do our final jury instructions. Okay, with that, Mr. Alderman, call your next witness, or I guess the defense is rested now. Mr. Alderman, is going to present any rebuttal witnesses.
Yes, sir. The state is going to present witnesses.
All right, call your first rebuttal witness.
State will call Deputy Quick.
Okay, Deputy Quick is the other officer that you saw on the very first video that was being shown. He was with, is it Detective Hartberg or Hart something? And he's the one that was talking to Colin out in the garage. So that's who this young man is.
Raise your right hand, please.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. All right, sir, have a seat in the chair.
Thanks, sir.
Hold the chair as close to the microphone as you can. Speak into the microphone loud enough so that everybody can hear you, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Alderman.
Thanks, sir. Sir, would you please state your name for the record?
Stephen Quick,
And where are you employed?
Bay County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been with the Bay County Sheriff's Office?
Roughly 3 years, 4 years.
And where were you employed prior to that?
Santa Rosa Sheriff's Office.
And how long were you with the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office?
About 5 years.
Now, I want to talk to you about September 8th of 2021. Were you employed with Santa Rosa at that time?
Yes, sir.
And did you respond to a call out that day?
Yes, sir.
Where did you respond to?
I don't remember the address off the top of my head.
Okay. Did anybody else respond with you? Any other deputies?
Yes, sir. Deputy Hartberger.
And who did you make contact with when you arrived there at that location?
It was Mr. Colin.
And where was he located?
He was seated in the garage when we walked up the driveway.
And where did Deputy Hartberger go?
He went to the front door and went inside.
Did you ever enter the residence?
No, sir.
Other than
Just the garage.
Other than the garage, the interior residence, did you ever go inside?
No, sir.
Were you wearing a body camera at that time?
Yes, sir.
Was it activated?
Yes, sir.
And have you viewed a copy of the recording from your body camera footage from that day?
Yes, sir.
And was that an accurate copy of what you witnessed that day?
Yes, sir.
This time I would move State's Exhibit 128 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, State's Exhibit 128 will be admitted into evidence.
Deputy Quick, your interactions there that day at the location, was everything that you saw and witnessed, was that captured on your body cam?
Yes, sir.
Move to publish State's 128.
All right, you may do so. Is it set up?
It should be. Judge.
Okay, all right. Well, tell me when to push the button then.
Yes, sir. I'm ready, Judge.
Hey.
Beautiful day.
What's that?
How we doing this? Outside? From the garage? We'll talk to one out here, then I'm assuming that's the wife or the other half. You want to say they told us? Wife, yeah. We talk to you guys separate. His daughter, if I go inside, one of us go inside talk to you.
Yeah, I put my big dog in the side room.
Okay.
But point you down. She's got a shotgun and her pistol in the bedroom with her. Okay. And my pistol is on the dashboard of my truck. I'll put it there all pretty for you.
Okay, you stay out here, man.
I'm still in. There's a little dog running around. She won't go all the way to the wall and then turn right. Her name's Bree. Her name's Bree. She's got both the kids in there with her.
All right. Do me a favor and lift your shirt up a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, just your key. Okay, I seen something sticking out.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was a key or what was going on
I
with it.
put on nice shorts with no pockets.
Okay. So why don't you give me a rundown on what happened during your argument?
All right. So, you want a summary or you want my detailed notes?
I want you to tell me what happened and why she called us.
So, she called you right now because she figured out that I want to take my kids to my parents' house in Georgia for her and I to have more for me. I guess me to have a break from her. A little bit of backstory: in March, she tried to kill herself and did inpatient. After she was inpatient, and then she was outpatient group for a while. She got kicked out of that group, and then went back in. They corrected a second time for suicide. And there she was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. Are you familiar?
Mm-hmm.
So she's diagnosed with borderline personality disorder in March or April. Got kicked out of her first therapy group, got kicked out of her second therapy group, and she skipped her last 2 individual therapies.
Okay. Well, what leads us to what's going on today? Because that's not being rude, but that's irrelevant to what's going on right now as far as she called us.
Yeah, so about 11 o'clock last night, she wanted to watch TV in the bedroom. Well, Ken and the kids were sleeping in there. I didn't want her to, so we were all sleeping. And she got mad and stormed out to the living room and watched TV out there. Tried to talk to her out there. She told me to go away. So I went back in the bedroom. 10 minutes later, she comes in the bedroom and says, "Get out." I said, "No." She says, "Now." I said, "No." So she lays down in the bed with the other 3 of us and turns on the TV. So for context, we normally watch it at 10. She turned at 30 until like 1 a.m. I turned it down a couple times. I eventually said, "Look, if you don't turn it down, I'm going to turn the Wi-Fi off of this TV." And she turned it up. So I turned the Wi-Fi off of that TV. She said, "Really, you're going to be vindictive?" I said, "I'm not being vindictive. I want to turn it down. At this point, it's 12:30 or 1 a.m. or something like that. Everybody's sleeping except for you. And you want to watch? You ever watch the 100? The 100?
I've heard about it. I haven't sat down and watched it.
Explosions and people scream.
Okay.
It's not a nice, quiet,
Yeah.
conversational show. So anyway, she says, "I'll show you vindictive," and goes out in the living room and punts around for a while, and then comes back and puts on like a rap pop music station on her phone, blasting that, and she goes to sleep. I'm laying there with kids, and at about 1:30, or 1:47, I think, I'm like laying there wide awake, and at that point, she was snoring, so I'm like, "All right, fuck this." And I would have gone to the couch before, but she wouldn't let me take the kids, and I don't really trust her with the kids when she's like this.
Mhm.
So she was sleeping, so I took grabbed my 4-year-old, or I went out to pee, took my 4-year-old to the couch, and then she woke up and started yelling at me again. "What are you doing? I'm taking kids to the couch." "The fuck you aren't."
And that was all
What's up?
last night, right? Rolled into this morning.
Yeah, this is probably right around 2 a.m. at this point.
Okay. So what happened today causing her to pick the phone up and call? I guess she called 911. I didn't look.
She found out I was like I was packing my car.
That's what the upset was.
Yes.
That you're going to Georgia to see their grandparents.
Yep.
And your parent.
Yeah, they're my parents.
Okay. And your kid's grandparent, actually.
Yep.
Okay. And she didn't like. And is she like? Was she allowed to go? Like, did you plan on her coming?
No, I didn't plan on her coming.
Okay, you're just gonna do it. Take a break.
Yeah.
And they're your kids, right?
They're my kids.
Okay. Y'all are married? Had
We're
kids?
married.
They're your blood.
They're both of our kids, and then I have a stepdaughter who's probably gonna be here in about 45 minutes from school.
Okay.
And my stepdaughter is fully hers legally, and her dad lives in Alabama, but he doesn't have any legal control.
Mm-hmm.
And she told me before, if I tie my 12-year-old, I can't stop you from taking the little kids because they're yours. But if you take my 12-year-old, I will press charges on you. Well, fuck, so I have to leave the 12-year-old with you to be borderline.
Right.
So after she had said, "I'll show you vindictive" last night, I thought she meant she came in and put the music on. I found this morning my laptop was missing. I've been all around the house for it, and finally, like, wait a minute, the dishwasher was running all night. Put my fucking MacBook in the dishwasher. It's a $2,500 computer. And then
It's unfortunate.
cut me off from all the credit cards she has control over. She's the primary breadwinner in the family. And yeah, I said, you washed my $2,500 computer because I turned off your show? No, because you controlled my access to the Wi-Fi. That's also not a legitimate reason.
Sure.
So this is the start, well, I guess, culmination of a long bad path.
Okay.
And it's not healthy for the kids to be around it. She's made repeated comments to the kids, the 3 and 4-year-old, since, well, today.
Well,
so the police are coming to save us because Daddy hurt Mommy. First of all, I didn't. Second of all, you don't tell a child that.
sure.
So,
What's your name again, man?
Collins,
Wow.
Ullin. Yes. All my pens are covered in wood shavings.
He'll bring you one. So basically, marital property, man, and nothing I can do about your laptop, your truck. Pretty much the situations that I've seen from my experience where this is going to happen is it's going to be who crosses the line first. So it's going to be somebody's going to get mad enough, someone's going to shove, someone's going to grab, someone's going to jail. So it would be best for you to give space. Just, I would tell her if she's staying here too, y'all need to give space. Can't make you do it. Can't make you leave. It's your house. It's going to be the first who crosses the line, you know?
Fucking sucks, man.
And we can't be getting too far into people's lives. I mean, if a crime occurred, yeah, good to go. But
If what? A crime?
a crime occurred. So if she slapped across the face and you got claw marks and a red handprint on your cheek, that's different. You say, yeah, she slapped me. I believe you. I see the handprint.
I almost wish.
So all I can tell you is there's only expectation of privacy in like bathrooms. You know, if she started getting crazy, take your phone and start recording. I'd tell her the same thing. You start acting all kind of irate, put your phone up, start recording. You can record in your home, record on your property.
Yeah, there's no like 2-person consent.
It is
Anything?
if you're recording voice or a secret camera. You gotta let them know you're recording them. But
Oh, okay.
there's privacy in the bathroom. You can't do it in the bathroom.
Gotcha.
Got one for you and one for Miss Bree. Here's your pen. You ever felt taken out with us before?
Now, can we go inside and do it on the table?
I'd rather you guys stay separated from now because you guys aren't getting along.
It's probably a good call. I'll manage.
The biggest thing I need, Colin, full name, date of birth, good phone number on there, and then the narrative. There's lines on the back. Tell me what happened.
Sounds good.
All right.
This goes into the police report.
Yep, there's gonna be a report.
He's so easy to deal with, you know? I mean, yeah, Bree has her stuff to say,
If
but
it's being domestic, there's definitely gonna be a report.
The report from last time y'all came out here.
If it was domestic and there was an argument,
Does it show up when you guys come out here? Or no?
yeah, if we look it up.
Okay.
But every time that we come out and there's something to do with an argument or domestic, there's reports required. What's up with all the little green baggies hanging around? being nosy.
study guy.
You live in Gulf Breeze?
No, I live in Perdido.
So the flies have been nightmarish this summer in Gulf Breeze.
Oh.
And she heard on one of their Facebook pages that kind of done soap like that, put it in a bag, and these flies away. It seemed to work really well at first.
Probably change them out quite a bit. The scent starts lingering off them.
Yeah, I don't think she's made a second. I don't think she's replaced them, so maybe they kind of tapered off at some point.
Okay. I was being nosy.
You know, the only one I like chatting. And it's nice to have another adult to talk to, if only briefly.
Yeah. And hopefully y'all get this figured out.
This is,
For at least the kids' sake.
yeah, well, this is, things were looking up when she was actually doing therapy, and then she stopped, and they're go down.
That's generally how it works. Stop getting help and shocker.
What's that?
Stop getting help and it's a shocker. You stop going up.
I
Appreciate
mean,
you guys getting here quick.
Oh, we're gonna show up, man. You call, we're showing up.
keep trying to find a lull to say something. Colin, I mean, yeah, Bree was irritated because they wouldn't do anything and she was lying. Colin, he was kind of irritated.
Yeah, just the top is your start, and then the bottom you just pretty much get the rundown of this incident. She's upset that you're wanting to take the kids to Georgia
Or maybe frustrated is a better word. 'Cause
just for visiting the grandparents.
and he's retired with 100% disability from the Marine Corps, so that means he does get an income. So when she cut off his availability for all funds and credit cards, part of that money he brings in too. They act like he didn't bring any money
I
in.
know it.
So they're trying to show me everything.
That's it.
Can I sign it?
No, I'll read it and I'll tell you to sign it. Make sure we got all the information that we need.
Anything else you recommend I put on there that I said to you but didn't write on there? The kids open.
Yeah. It's the one that's got all the energy.
Take it, boy.
Yep.
And I've been holding these kids up for 2 years.
Well, he's full of energy, that's for sure.
Yeah.
He's busy.
I got out of the Marine Corps about 2 years ago to keep them on daycare.
Yeah.
Here, we'll go slip. That was funny. What's wrong, buddy? You okay? You know, you gotta look where you're going, buddy.
can call us, okay?
Can I get a copy of his statement later?
It's all part of the report. You have to get it from records with the such copies, okay?
She wants a
Alright.
copy of his report. He didn't write one.
What's it like?
She just wants his statement.
Thank you, Judge.
Did you hear that? Can I get a copy of his statement? She's pre-planned. I know what she's
And for the
doing.
record, the last couple of minutes there are published on, were published on Deputy Hartbarger's body cam. Deputy Quick, after you and Deputy Hartbarger left the scene, did you have any further involvement in this case?
No, sir.
Thanks, sir.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Quick.
Good morning,
How
sir.
you doing? So you got called out there at 6184 Jinx Drive that morning. That was the first call out there to the house, right?
I believe it's the only call I responded to, sir.
Okay. You were aware that in total, including the shooting, there was 3 separate times that law enforcement had to come out there to that residence.
Okay.
You know that?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Now, Hartberger was the one that was talking to Bree,
Okay.
right?
Yes, sir.
You never talked to her, did you?
Briefly, when she asked a question amongst us, I didn't interview her or anything.
And basically you learned that this man had cut the Wi-Fi. That led to the argument, followed into the next morning. And the argument basically surrounded him taking the children to Georgia. That was what you learned during your investigation, right?
Yes, sir.
It's his
And
fault for
he
cutting the
told you that he
Wi-Fi.
had a firearm in that truck, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
Dashboard.
Yes, sir.
You never got any information or any evidence at all that this woman ever threatened him in any way, either physically or with any firearm or anything like that during the time that you were out there, did you?
I believe I asked him if anything was physical or he's no.
She never threatened him, did she? As
Not
far
to
as
my
you were
knowledge.
able to- Okay. Now, Bree also told law enforcement that she had been pushed into a door frame, she'd been slammed to the floor, and been raped twice. But nothing ever happened as a result of her complaints to law enforcement, did there?
I don't know, sir. I didn't.
Y'all
ask
didn't do
her
a
that.
rape assault kit? Y'all didn't question him about a rape? Y'all didn't question him
Yeah,
about
I'm
a
there.
battery, did you?
Object at this point. Deputy said he had no contact with Ms. Kuhn.
He
I'll
already
stand the
told you he
objection.
didn't deal with her.
Did y'all arrest anybody that day?
No, sir, I did
Did
not.
y'all take him to the jail?
I did not arrest him.
Okay.
There was no reason to
And
arrest him.
during this video, Colin's telling you, look, Bree's telling the kids, the police are coming to help mommy because daddy's hurting her.
Which is a lie, he said.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. But y'all didn't help Bree, did you? That day, nothing happened as far as arresting Colin.
Your Honor, I'm going to object as to form.
Sustained as to the form of the question.
You didn't arrest him, did you?
No, sir, I've not arrested him.
He also told you that Bree had full custody and legal rights to the 12-year-old daughter, Kylie, correct?
Yes, sir.
Big deal.
So those are my questions.
Any redirect?
No, sir.
All right, can this witness step down and be excused?
Yes, sir.
No objection by defense,
Sir,
Your
you may
Honor.
step down. You're now excused.
Thank you, Judge.
Mr. Alderman, call your next witness.
State would call Hardy Joyner.
Okay, this little guy, he's pretty interesting. The defense looks like he's got mud on his face at one point dealing with him, but this is Bree's ex. They were never married, but he's the father of the 12-year-old child. I hope I don't look too sleepy. My grandbaby gave me a run for my money today. Oh, mercy, she busy.
All right, sir, raise your right hand, please.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am, I do. All right, sir, have a seat in the chair. Pull the chair as close to the microphone as you can and speak loud enough in the microphone so that everybody can hear you. All right, Mr. Alderman, you may proceed.
Thanks, sir. Sir, would you please state your name for the record
James Hardy Joyner.
and where you're employed?
I'm a special agent with the Drug Enforcement Administration, or DEA.
Do you know the defendant, Ms.
Oh.
Bree Kuhn?
Yes, sir, I do.
How do you know Ms. Kuhn?
We were in a relationship together and we have a daughter together, Kylie Elizabeth Joyner.
And at the time of this incident, how old was your daughter, Kylie?
12.
And what was the living situation of Kylie at that time?
She lived with Bree and Colin full time, and I saw her every other weekend.
Where were you living? Not the address, but where were you living at that time?
The Mobile, Alabama area.
Now, on the day of the shooting, did you have any contact with Mr. Colin Turner?
Yes, sir, I did.
And how did that contact come about?
He texted me, initiated a conversation with me about an argument that him and Bree were having.
And the nature of your contact with Mr. Turner that day, how were you guys communicating all that day?
It was all via text.
Did you ever speak to him on the phone?
No, sir, I did not.
You may approach the witness.
You may.
Sir, I've handed you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 108 for identification purposes. Do you recognize those messages?
Yes, sir, I do.
How do you recognize those messages?
It's a conversation between myself and Colin the night of the incident.
And is that an accurate copy of the text messages that you and Colin sent back and forth?
Yes, sir, it is.
At this time, I'd like to move into evidence State's Exhibit 108.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 108 will be admitted into evidence.
And I would move to publish, Judge.
You may.
I'm ready whenever you're ready. Agent Joanna, what is the time of that first message?
Appears to be 12:55 p.m.
And the messages on the left in the white, who is sending them those messages?
That's Colin, and that's myself in the darker shade.
And can you read the first message that Colin sent you that day?
Yes, sir. Hey, man, Bree's losing it. She ran my laptop through the dishwasher last night because I turned the Wi-Fi off. I'm planning on getting out of here with the little kids, but she's already told me she'll press charges if I take Kylie with me. I don't know what you can do legally, but I wanted to give you a heads up.
And how did you respond to Colin?
I said, damn, dude, I hate that. I'm not sure what to do, but thanks for the heads up. I was really hoping that she, referring to Bree, had gotten better.
And what was Colin's response to you?
She got kicked out of 2 group therapies, and she skipped her last 2 individual therapies, still drinking a lot.
And what was the time of your next message back to Colin?
It's 18:09, 6:09 p.m., I believe is what it was.
And what did you ask Colin? What did you say to Colin?
I said, everything okay, man?
And how did Colin respond to you?
He said, nah, gonna be worse before it gets better too. She's always told her stories about you, and I thought you sucked. But now that I think about it, she's crazy as hell and probably did the same stuff to you.
And how did you respond to Colin?
I said, I definitely had my down days, and I did my share of wrong in the past, but I'm sure there's plenty more to the stories you don't know, as you can probably see now.
And what was Colin's next message to you?
Yep, she just locked me in the garage because I wouldn't talk to her.
And what was the time Colin sent you that message?
6:13 p.m. approximate.
And how did you respond to Colin's statement about being locked in the garage?
I said, if you ever want to talk, I probably know more about what you were able to keep her happy a lot longer than me, and you somehow have been able to get through to her more than I ever did.
Did you ever have any more communication with? Oh, thank you, Judge.
So I guess she's had issues for a
Did you ever
while,
have any
huh?
more communication with Colin?
No, sir.
Now, again, you didn't speak with him on the phone, so everything you know about the situation that day is in these text messages. Is that fair to say?
Yes, sir.
And did you discuss any of the things he's telling you about the issues they're having that day? Did you discuss any of that with Bree?
No, sir.
At some point that day, did you speak with Bree?
I did.
How did that come about?
She contacted me. She called me. I answered the phone, and she said, you need to come get your daughter to some extent. And I thought, maybe she's just being a 12-year-old. And I said, why do I need to come get my daughter? And she said, I just shot Colin. And I responded, I said, why? And she said, I don't know. She said, you just need to come get Kylie. And I said, okay, I'm on the way.
Did you give any more description about what had happened?
No.
And where did you, once she has contacted you and told you this, where did you go?
I was on the way pretty much immediately to her residence in Gulf Breeze.
Now, prior to that day, or up until including that day, Colin was Kylie's stepdad. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you ever have any concerns about Colin being a stepdad to Kylie?
No, sir. He was great, and she had nothing but good things to say about him all the time.
Thanks, sir.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Rutherford, cross-examination.
Likable.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
You're with the DEA, and you addressed yourself as a special agent. I've practiced federal law for many, many years, and I always, not being facetious, but is there anything you're special about? Everybody that's an officer for DEA are called special agents. That's just your designation, right?
No, sir. I'm a 1811, a criminal investigator special agent. And we're the only people in DEA that are special agents, are 1811s.
I'm guessing he didn't know that with all his smart ass, right? That's what you get for being a smart ass. Wonder if Bree might have told you that. Did Bree tell you? Did Bree tell you that he was just a nobody and
Approximately 4 years, 5 years going on.
Colin told you he was going
I'm just guessing that Bree must have. Oh, that's not very nice, is it? Let me get a better page.
to get the kids and go to Georgia, didn't he?
He said he was
I
going
wonder
to
if
try to take the kids.
Bree.
Yes, sir, in the text.
So I wonder if Bree lied to the attorney about her ex. Not that they were married or anything, but I got a feeling she did. What do y'all think? He seemed like a pretty nice guy, though. I mean, he could have got up there and lied and lied and lied, and apparently he he could have told us all about Bree, but they didn't ask for any of that. So then we got dipshit up here who wants to act like he's not in the field or the status that he says he is, but he just found out that he was wrong. Mr. Barnes was wrong.
And he also told you that Bree was going to have him arrested if he tried to take Kylie, because Kylie wasn't his biological daughter, right?
Yes, sir. He told me that she was going to press charges, is what he said.
And Bree had full custody of Kylie, didn't she?
Yes, sir. She had full custody. I had visitation.
She was very liberal with allowing you to see your daughter, right? Yep. Y'all don't have any issues with you seeing your daughter?
No,
I think it was
sir.
every other weekend, right?
Yes, sir. At that time, they had just moved close to me, so I started getting her consistently every other weekend.
Okay. And you knew that Bree had been hospitalized for an apparent attempted suicide.
I did not at that time.
Oh, you didn't?
I was aware that she was hospitalized, but I did not know that it was for an attempted suicide until after this incident.
Get some more mud ready. Making mud pies. Here they come. Here they come. I wonder if he knows Sarah Boone's attorney.
We talked about it in the
Overrule the objection.
person witness trying to,
You know?
I'm going to show you something, page 18, deposition.
What page are you on? I'm sorry.
Page 18, lines 3 through 5. If you will, Mr. Hardy, I'd like for you to read 3 to 5 to yourself. Don't read it out loud. Just read lines 3 to 5 to yourself. Now, if you have a chance to read that, I'm going to ask you again questions, see whether that helps refresh your recollection.
Yes, sir. Like I said, I was not aware that it was an attempted suicide until after this incident occurred. I was aware that she was hospitalized.
Well, that's not what you said then. You said, but yeah, I can't remember exactly when this, that it was an attempted suicide.
After the incident. Yes, sir.
No, that's not what you said. I was not aware that it was that extent. That's what you said under oath back in October 26, 2022.
Yeah, I was
You
not
don't mind saying
aware
that?
it was
I
that
did say that,
extent.
and I was not aware that it was an attempted suicide until after this incident. I was aware that she was hospitalized.
And you knew that she was in the hospital for depression, didn't you?
Colin told me his words were mental issues. So,
Now, Bree called you immediately after the shooting, didn't you?
yes, sir.
And you found out from Colin about the basis of the argument, turn off the Wi-Fi.
Oh,
And
jeez.
apparently went over to the next morning.
Okay, may I just say the problem was not because it did not start with Colin turning off the Wi-Fi. The problem started because Bree, for whatever reason, wanted to just hang out, watch TV, have the TV up as loud as could be, and she has a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old. So, and I believe it was a work night because she was supposed to go to work the next day, but she didn't go. She didn't show up for work either. So there you are, mister. That's all about your client.
And in those texts between you and Colin, you mentioned that you'd had your down days and you did your share of wrong in the past as well, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
And when she called, she told you you needed to come get your daughter.
Yes, sir.
As soon as possible, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall her asking you whether Colin was dead?
The second phone call that she called me, she asked me if Colin was dead.
You were never married to her, were you?
No, sir.
And you mentioned there in your text, and I believe you testified today as well, that obviously Bree had some mental health issues that needed to be addressed or should be addressed, right?
I would agree with that. Yes, sir.
You knew that Bree took medications for ADHD, didn't you?
Yes, sir. That was even back in our relationship. I believe she was taking Vyvanse for ADHD, but I don't know if she was still currently at the time of the incident.
And you, in the text between you and Colin, I mean, one of the last questions that the prosecution posed to you was, and your answer was, she had nothing but good things to say about him. But then there in your text with Colin, you said Bree had told you stories about him and you thought he sucked. So
Dumbass.
not exactly the same. Which one was it?
You're incorrect. He said that he thought I sucked. That's coming from Colin, not from me.
You got anything else to say, Mr. Barnes? Gotta have that attitude too.
Did you ever have any communications with her after that second phone call?
We talked via jail calls after she was incarcerated. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any redirect?
No, sir.
All right, can this witness step down?
Yes, sir.
I have no objection to being
All right,
excused.
sir,
Your
you may
Honor.
step down. You're now excused. All right, Mr. Alderman, call your next witness.
State would recall Detective Mitchell Kelly.
I just have to say that I think that defense attorney, I mean, did he take a bath in mud or what? Because he couldn't get anything that man said straight. He said what Colin said, he said, but it was really Colin. I mean,
Mr. Alderman,
Yes, sir.
if you could have the evidence you introduced.
Yes.
argued with him over
You have those.
whether he knew Bree went in
Leave the-
for, the taking herself out of the equation
Did you take that?
issue or what. And he says not until after this incident.
Mr. Joyner.
He tried to make it sound like that wasn't right either. I mean, I think this is the gentleman that went up and talked to Eric,
All right, sir. Ask
one of
you to
these
raise your right hand.
unprofessional people.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Sir, have a seat in the chair again. Pull the chair as close to the mic as you can. Speak loud enough into the microphone so that everybody can hear you. Mr. Alderman, you may proceed.
Thanks, sir. So would you please state your name again for the record?
Mitchell Kelly.
And we previously discussed that you and Detective Rowell had gone to Pennsylvania to interview Mr. Eric Kuhn. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And without telling me the exact nature of the conversation, can you describe what happened when you arrived to speak with Mr. Kuhn?
So after we had wrote, we got to Pennsylvania. We made contact with defendant's brother to kind of arrange an interview.
How did you initially make contact with him?
We called him on the phone, let him know we were in town. We had also arranged to have an interview done at the local police department, just in case that was an option. We told him we were in town, told him we wanted to meet for an interview. He wanted to do it at his business, which we were fine with.
So after this telephone conversation, where do you go?
We went to his business and met with him.
And is that you and Detective Rowell?
That's correct.
And what was the situation when you arrived at his business?
Once we got there, he wanted to have a conversation with the attorney about having him on the phone while we were having the interview, which we were fine with.
Yeah, if y'all remember, Colin said, not Colin, Eric said that he didn't even know if she had an attorney. He thought it was so unprofessional and they just showed up. Of course, it's only a murder investigation. But, we did hear him talk about that he had the attorney on the line while he was answering questions. They reminded him of that. So, and he was like, oh, yeah, that's right. But I guess he forgot that at the very beginning, he was like, I didn't even know she had an attorney. So Eric got on the stand and from the very beginning did nothing but lie. But I think everybody could pretty much tell that, couldn't you? Couldn't you? I don't think there's anything he told that was the truth. Now, Just saying, I personally don't. I think it was so full of crap, it was unreal.
I think once we started the interview, we recorded everything.
And the attorney that you mentioned, did he end up being on the phone and part of the conversation?
Yes, he was.
And you mentioned the recording. Ultimately, the body camera is turned on and recording is done. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, prior to that recording, what was again, without telling me the exact details, what was the nature of your discussion with Mr. Kuhn?
Before the interview?
Yes.
Nothing really, banter about his business, I guess. Really was just kind of discussing why we were there, and he was kind of wondering why we were there, why we had kind of shown up to have the interview. We just kind of explained to him it was important to have it in person.
Before the recording is done, was there any questioning or interrogation about the specifics of what happened in relation to the murder?
No, sir.
And you previously stated you've been in law enforcement in both Colorado and Florida. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And worked as a homicide investigator?
That's correct.
Now, as a homicide investigator, would there ever be a situation where you do a partial interview, start a recording, and then finish an interview?
No,
Why would you not do that?
because it's just not the right thing to do.
Have you ever done that in your career?
No.
Thanks, sir.
Cross-examination?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you gonna be a jackass
Good
too?
morning, Mr. Kelly.
Morning.
You didn't contact Eric Kuhn until you'd already gotten there in Pennsylvania, did you?
That's correct.
Okay.
Why would he?
So he had no idea you were even in Pennsylvania until you got there, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And did you have a body camera on you when you interviewed him?
Yes.
Okay. We haven't seen, that has been presented as evidence. Did Raul have a body camera?
We were there together, so we had the one body camera.
That hasn't been introduced into evidence.
Your Honor, I'm going to object for relevance and an improper question to a witness.
You could introduce it too. What do you think you're throwing shade? Because I tell you why it wasn't introduced. Because Eric said so much bullshit, there wasn't any sense in it. If y'all saw him up on the stand, can you imagine the big ass lies he would have told them for an interview? I wouldn't have put it up there either. He had an attitude. He was making up stories as he went. I mean, you'd think that he called Jennifer M from Massachusetts and had her give him a rundown on the best way to handle himself in court. Nothing but lies ahead of time and then go, okay. Let's see if we got very much wiggle. Oh, see, as soon as I think, gosh, I might find a picture of Red Skeleton.
You agree that the best evidence of the questions you asked and the answers that Eric gave you would have been captured on a body camera?
Can you rephrase that question? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Do you agree that the best evidence, the most correct evidence, the most objective evidence would be the body camera that you say that y'all recorded Eric with that day? Instead of your memory now, some 3 years later, do you agree with me that the body camera would be the best evidence?
Yes, that's why I record our interviews.
And I believe you said that Eric wondered why you showed up out of nowhere, or worse of that, something like that. Is that what you testified to earlier?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you never asked him about Bree having a gun, did you?
So when we were there just to get a statement from him about what conversation he had with Bree at the time.
Okay, the question was, you never asked him about Bree having a gun, did you?
I don't recall asking any specific questions about the gun.
So if he didn't mention it, it's because you didn't ask him. Is that
Your
fair to
Honor,
say?
I'm going to object for
What
argumentative.
difference does it make?
I'll sustain as it's phrased.
That you never specifically asked Eric about Bree having a gun, did you?
No, sir, he wasn't there.
Eh.
Can you redirect?
Yeah, anything Eric said was hearsay. I don't know how he got to get up
Kelly,
there
if
and
you
say what he
asked a
said.
witness to tell me everything that you witnessed or heard or knew, do you expect them to do that?
I do.
And you only know what they're telling you. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So if they don't mention something, it would be hard for you to to specifically ask about that. Is that
Correct.
fair
I'm
to
not going to lead them into information.
Right, to
say?
call
And in
the
terms of showing
statement.
up in Pennsylvania, might there be a benefit to not giving a witness in a murder case a good deal of advance notice?
That's correct.
And what would that purpose be?
To get a true statement from them, not a prepared statement or a planned out statement, I guess you could say.
Thanks, sir.
Correct. Can this witness be excused?
Yes.
Very much.
No objection by defense, Your Honor.
You may step down. You're now excused. Thank you. All right, Mr. Alderman.
He just irritated me
And
so
take the
bad.
rest, Judge.
Okay. Members of the jury, I'm going to have you, well, let me have the attorney's approach.
Okay. All right. So he's going to send them off for a break. They're going to be gone for probably an hour. He's going to call them back in and send them home for the day. They have to go home early because the courthouse is closing early because of one of the storms. It didn't actually do, they didn't have any problems in their town, but you never know with a hurricane. You just don't. They can turn at the last minute. They can uh, throw tornadoes further, rain further. So you just never know. And then we're going to, when we come back, um, we'll be into the start of day 4, which day 4 has closing arguments, and then they eventually turn the case over to the jury, and then the jury will bring us back a verdict same day. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, I'm gonna see if this is gonna fix the problem I had from. I had done one with this last night, but for some reason the recording was just horrible. But it looks a little bad on their site too in some places. So this will be the best I can do. Hopefully, I know my husband and daughter have been sitting here just yakking away. So let's find out whether or not I got that noise now. All right, y'all. So we will get ready. It's a show. It's a show. Mr. Barnes is mm-mm-mm. Hey everybody. This is Nana. I just wanted to stop in here and explain what I've done. So day 3 ended. The judge had sent them to no. Need you to go over there. You can't be here. Go over there for a minute. I'm so sorry. The judge had sent the jury to the jury room. They had a discussion. They went ahead and sent the jury home. The courthouse was closing early that day. So day 3 ended with the jury going home. Day 4, we're going to start straight into. I skipped the jury instructions. If you want to see those, you can go watch them on the channel that streamed the entire trial, and went straight to the closing arguments. Then I did the we had a question come back. I did that, and then I also did the verdict. I'm going to put those at the end of this video, but I'm also going to do a separate one with just the verdict. So for people that just don't want to hear the rest of the story. But I hope that it makes sense. I tried to cut out as much unnecessary as I could, but it seemed like to tell the story in the way it was just easier just to track it with the trial because it just, I mean, just too unreal to me. So I hope you enjoyed it and can't wait till, well, y'all are going to have to listen. I've got a few other things that I'm going to bring up about Bree, and then I have Sarah and Karen Reed. So I've just got all these things I want to look into. So I will share what I find or what I think along the way. And I hope you have a good day. I'm going to say bye right here, even though it's just starting again. Bye.
Closing instructions for you. But at this time, the attorneys will now present their final arguments to you. Please remember that what the attorneys say is not evidence or instruction on the law. However, do listen closely to their arguments. They're intended to aid you in understanding the case. Each side will have equal time, but the state is entitled to divide this time between an opening argument and a rebuttal argument after the defense has given its closing argument. So you have the state go first, then the defense, and then the state will have rebuttal argument. All right, Mr. Alderman, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you want me to go ahead and turn the
Yes, sir. Please.
projector on?
Please, the court. Ms. Barnes, Ms. Etheridge. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time and attention this week. Before I start running through my closing, I do want to point out, obviously, on Tuesday, Mr. Etheridge and I giving opening arguments or opening statements, and we talked about the evidence that we anticipated that you would hear and see during the week. Now, I always think that a trial is a sort of like a living, breathing organism. No matter how much work and plan you put into it, things change. Usually it's nobody's fault. That's the way it is. So what's important at this stage is, as the judge just told you, what the attorneys say is not evidence. What I told you in opening statements, what Mr. Etheridge told you in opening statements, is not evidence. Your verdict should be based on evidence that you heard from the witness stand and in the form of the exhibits. So if you heard something in opening that you didn't hear during the trial, you should disregard it. Now, I do want to talk to you about the jury instructions. The judge just read them to you. Each of you will have a copy that you get to take back with you into the jury room. And it is my job, the judge has explained the law to you. It is now my job to explain how that law pertains to the facts of the case. So what is Ms. Kuhn charged with? She has one count, first-degree premeditated murder. The judge read the three elements of the charge. Firstly, that Mr. Colin Turner is dead. The judge read you a stipulation on Tuesday. Both sides agree. Obviously, Mr. Colin Turner is dead. Second element, that his death was caused by the criminal act of Ms. Kuhn. Third, that there was a premeditated killing of Colin Turner. The judge just read to you the definition of premeditation. I talked about it briefly on Monday. It requires a conscious decision to kill. It means that somebody is not trying to wound, they're not trying to maim, they're not trying to injure. They make a conscious decision to take another human life. After that decision, there must be enough time for reflection. And the law doesn't tell you how long that must be. Seconds, minutes, days. There must be enough time for reflection between the decision to kill and the act itself. Again, so it is up to you to decide, is this enough time for reflection? Now, the example I often use for first-degree murder is, let's say I'm in an argument with somebody here in the courthouse. I walk out to my car, get my gun, come back and kill the person. That would very likely be premeditated murder. I've had time for reflection. I walk out, get my gun, I walk back. It's a short time frame, seconds, a couple of minutes. There is time for reflection. It's not an instantaneous decision, but there is time for reflection. Now, what's also key about that is it's time for reflection, not time for meditation or to, go to your happy place and cool down and make a calm, rational, logical decision. That is not what premeditation is. Someone can still be aggravated, mad, and it's still premeditated murder. I get my gun from my car and I'm coming back up here. I'm still mad. Otherwise, I wouldn't kill the person. That is premeditation. So it's important to know what is required. An intent to kill, time for reflection. As it pertains to this case, look at the actions of Ms. Kuhn. And obviously, when it comes to premeditation, we're not mind readers. Right? We don't know exactly what was in our mind. That's why the instruction tells you, you look at the circumstances of the killing. You look at the physical evidence that indicates what the person's intent was. What was the person intending to do? So ask yourself, when Ms. Kuhn approaches the door to the garage, what was her intent? Her intent was to kill her husband. How long did she premeditate? We'll never know. A couple of minutes, 10 minutes, no way to know. There was enough time for reflection. She intended to kill him as she's walking to that door. That is premeditated murder. Judge read you the lesser included crimes, second-degree murder and manslaughter. I do want to touch on them briefly just to explain the differences. So second-degree murder also has three elements. You'll notice that the first two are the same as first-degree murder. Colin is dead, and his death was caused by Bree Kuhn's criminal act. It's the third element there is the difference. Third element for second degree is that there was an unlawful killing of Mr. Turner by an act eminently dangerous to another, demonstrating a depraved mind. Second-degree murder does not require an intent to kill. It's an intent to do an act that is imminently dangerous to another, but not necessarily to kill. It may seem like a small distinction, but it's a very large difference. Example I often use is if I shoot somebody in the leg, they bleed out and they die. Shooting somebody in the leg is imminently dangerous. It's certain to cause great bodily harm. Was I intending to kill them? Maybe, maybe not. These are the definitions that the judge has read to you of imminently dangerous. Has to be reasonably certain to cause bodily injury. It's done from ill will, hatred, or spite, and indicates an indifference to human life. Now, it's important to note, as you're looking at this definition of second-degree murder, you may be thinking to yourself, well, she did all of these things, right? She did an act that was imminently dangerous to another. That act showed an indifference to human life. So as you're looking at these, you may think this fits what she did. But it's important to remember that, yes, she did all of this, but she did more than that. Because second-degree murder, there's no intent to kill, there's no premeditation. So when you look at those elements of second-degree murder, yes, she did all that, but she did more. That's why it's a lesser charge. The other lesser charge is manslaughter. There are two elements. Again, first, Colin is dead. Second, that it was an intentional act that caused his death. Now, with manslaughter, the act has to be intentional, but not the death, not the result. So the example I usually use is if I intentionally punch someone, that's an intentional act. They fall, hit their head, and die. That's an intentional act that has resulted in death. I did not intend to kill the person. I did not intend the person to suffer great bodily harm. My intent was to punch them. That's manslaughter. Intentional act results in death. Again, that is not what Bree Kuhn did. Well, she did do that, but again, she did much, much more. So it's a lesser charge. So again, just remember when you're looking at those, yes, she did those, but more. So that's the difference between the three charges. Judge read to you the definition of justifiable use of deadly force. I touched on this briefly on Monday. And you
Does I have an objection? Can we approach?
Okay.
believe the force is necessary to prevent imminent death or great bodily harm to himself or another. Now, several keywords in that are there has to be a reasonable belief. So if somebody gives me an odd look and I think they're about to kill me and I use deadly force, that would not be self-defense because it has to be a reasonable belief. It's not just what I believe. It has to be a reasonable belief. Another important word in that sentence is prevent, i.e. it's something that's about to take place. It's not something that's already happened. There's a difference between revenge and self-defense. Self-defense has to be to prevent a future event. It also requires that it's imminent. In other words, if I tell somebody I'm going to stab you in 2 weeks, that is not an imminent threat. It has to be about to take place. The person is a threat, an imminent threat. It also has to involve death or great bodily harm. So if somebody pokes me in the chest, do I have the right to defend myself? Absolutely. Do I have the right to use deadly force, kill the person? No, because there's no imminent threat of death or great bodily harm. So self-defense is not a blank check. If somebody threatens you or does something, does not mean you just have the right to do whatever you think is necessary. There has to be an imminent threat of death or great bodily harm for you to be justified in using deadly force. Another thing I want to touch on is that there is no duty to retreat. In Florida, if you're in a place you have a right to be, whether it's your home, the gym, on the street, you're in a place you have a right to be, you're not breaking the law, you have no duty to retreat. Commonly, people refer to it as to stand your ground. You get to stand your ground. So for example, if I'm standing next to my running car and somebody is 50 yards away walking towards me and they're threatening, they're yelling at me, and I can get away safely, I don't have to. I can stand there, stand my ground, wait for that person to approach me. And then as soon as they pose an imminent threat, maybe they're a few feet away, I get to defend myself. But what does that not entail? Right? It's a duty, no duty to retreat. But if that person is yelling at me from 50 yards away, I approach them to initiate a physical confrontation, that would not be self-defense. You don't have a duty to retreat, but you can't advance. There's a big difference between standing your ground and advancing to seek a physical confrontation. It also requires that the danger must be so real that the person thinks that such force is necessary. And it's not, again, it's the last sentence talks about a reasonably cautious and prudent person must believe that the actions are necessary. So it's not what some nervous, trigger-happy person thinks. A reasonably cautious and prudent person must believe these actions are necessary to defend myself or another from what's about to take place. This is the verdict form the judge just read to you, so I'm not going to read through all of it. It looks convoluted. It's really not. Ultimately, you have 4 options: first-degree murder, second-degree murder, manslaughter, not guilty. As the judge read, if you come back second-degree murder or manslaughter, you have to answer the questions about whether this case involved a firearm, which obviously it did. So if you were to find Ms. Kuhn guilty of second-degree murder or manslaughter, you would answer yes, she used the firearm. If you find that Ms. Kuhn guilty of first-degree murder, check that box at the top, you're done. Judge read to you the reasonable doubt. I'm not going to read it to you. This is the standard that you're to apply, that you're to hold the state to. Not all doubt, not every doubt. You know, I gave you the example Monday about the rain example, and what is the reasonable conclusion from the evidence. And this standard applies to those 3 elements of first-degree murder. You believe the state has proven those 3 elements, first-degree murder, find it guilty. Another important thing to note is you can have reasonable doubt about things outside the elements. The state does not have to prove every little aspect of the case beyond all reasonable doubt. If you're not sure what color Colin's truck was, oh, I'm not sure if it was red, if it was blue, that's fine. That's not an element the state has to prove. So always go back to that I believe it's the second page. What are the 3 elements the state has to prove? That's it for your verdict to be guilty. Weighing the evidence. Ultimately, your job as the jury is to decide what is credible, what is believable, what is reliable. The attorneys, myself, Mr. Barnes, Mr. Etheridge, we can introduce evidence, but what we think about the evidence doesn't matter. It's your decision. You get to decide what to believe, who to believe, how much to believe. That is your job. And just use your common sense. That's a lot of times what these cases come down to. Use your common sense in evaluating what somebody is telling you. Does it make sense? You can believe or disbelieve any part, any testimony or any evidence. I always think of it sort of like a buffet. You can pick and choose whatever you want to believe, how much to believe. That is entirely your province. 3.9 also indicates all the factors you can use to evaluate the testimony of a witness, which again is a very important job. And you should use these criteria in evaluating every witness that you heard from, both from the state and from the defense. Now you see that many of the state witnesses, a great deal of what they testified to, what they saw, what they heard, what they did, was on camera. That's one of the great things about the body cams is that we're not reliant on somebody's interpretation or their memory. For example, Deputy Lynn, he had contact with both Colin and Bree right before the murder, about 45 minutes. I think he left about 45 minutes before the shooting. Now we're here 3 years later. We don't have to rely on what he thought they said or what he believed their attitude was. You got to see it and hear it for yourself. So no disrespect to him, but if his memory isn't that great about what happened, you've seen and heard it. You know what happened. Now, when you apply these criteria to the testimony of Bree Kuhn, you're going to see that his testimony should not be relied upon. Now, I do want to talk about it briefly. So, Mr. Kuhn's testimony, you heard from him about what he heard, and his testimony was all over the place. I mean, right from the get-go, he tells you this call was several minutes, and then seconds later, he says the call was 45 minutes. And granted, he probably didn't have a stopwatch on him, but that's a huge difference. He said Colin was dragging Laney by the arm. 30 seconds later, he turns around and said, I never said dragging. You literally just said it 30 seconds ago. Yeah, we went back and went round and round in circles about the statements early in the day about whether Colin was refusing to watch the kids or whether he was kidnapping the kids. And he said both. And he even said on the stand, how can it be both? I said, I don't know. I don't know. There was all the things that he was convinced that he told the police before they started recording about dragging Lainey by the arm, about Colin or Bree saying that Colin's threatening to kill the kids. He's throwing her down. And he believed that he said all these things he told the police before they started recording, or he must have said it while Zoom was glitched. And I recalled Deputy Kelly, but I hope you understand that that's not how murder investigations proceed. These detectives don't have a full-on interview and then say, hey, now let's start the recording. I asked Detective Kelly, or Sergeant Kelly now, did you do that in this case? No. Have you ever done that in your career? No. Would you ever do that? Of course not. Although even then, when they're talking to him, they say, tell us everything. And he sat there and told you, oh, I didn't mention all the things I mentioned before because I didn't want to be redundant. He also talked about how them showing up, and he was so taken aback, and how unprofessional they were to just simply show up. And he was shell-shocked. These detectives show up to talk to him. He's saying that he is the only witness in a murder case. He's on the phone. He hears the entire thing. He hears his sister being attacked, the only witness to a murder case, and then he is shell-shocked that homicide detectives turn up to talk to him. He should have welcomed them with open arms. Instead, he sat here and seemed to have absolutely no clue what he told them. You're going to rely on his memory and his version of events? No, you shouldn't. Ultimately, it was, I'm not sure exactly what his end testimony was, but the takeaway was that he hears this scuffle, altercation, fight. He hears Bree being hit. She's reporting, Al, that hurts. Colin, you're hitting me. Things that she's saying that Colin's doing. He hears kids screaming. Then he hears gunshots. All part of one sequence. He tried to sort of equivocate between immediately, right after. He said it was all one sequence. This fight, gunshots. It sounds good, right? It sounds like somebody defending themselves. She's being attacked. He's threatening the kids. She's got to defend herself. And you've heard the 911 recording. And Colin was not in a physical altercation. He was not attacking anybody. He was not dragging anybody. The kids weren't screaming. He's out on the phone having a calm, rational conversation. None of that was taking place. Two conclusions come to mind. Either Mr. Kuhn is mistaken about what he thought he heard, or perhaps he did hear, and he is right about some of the things he heard. I asked him, can you tell between someone hitting themselves, someone being hit by somebody else? No, of course not, on the phone. Because he's relaying, hearing this ruckus, this fight, right before the shooting. Right? Logically, that did not take place in Colin's vicinity. Otherwise, we would have heard it. He's locked outside in the garage. She's inside with the kids. What he's hearing could not have taken place near Colin. So if he's hearing somebody being hit, ow, that hurts, Colin, stop. She's doing that inside the house. Walks to the door, shoots Colin in the back. She now has a witness and an alibi for murder. Is that what happened? We don't know. What we do know is that Colin was not attacking her. So if what Eric Kuhn is reporting is accurate about this fight, it didn't involve Colin. And Deputy Hartberger told her early that morning, or early in the afternoon, when he did not arrest Colin, was there another witness? Now, he wasn't suggesting to her to sort of find a witness, but she knew something would happen. She needed another witness. Now, hey presto, she has a witness. At the end of the day, you just got to use your common sense. And you get to decide what to make your testimony, what to believe, how much to believe. I would urge you just to disregard the whole thing. You can do that. Just because there are conflicts in the evidence doesn't mean that you have to believe one side. If somebody gets on the stand and insists that 2 + 2 = 17, you can go back to the jury room and say, I don't believe it. Because his statements not only were inconsistent in and of itself, it was also completely different than the version his sister gave. It's also contradicted by the physical evidence and any degree of common sense or rationality. Anyway, I'm not going to spend any more time on that. I hope you evaluate his testimony as you should. And at the end of the day, he's our brother. He told you about she was my protector growing up. Now she's on trial, and it's his turn to be the protector. So let's talk about the state's case. So that day, things got started at 12:54. Ms. Kuhn calls 911 and reports that Colin is pushed her and thrown her down. And then another interesting aspect of that 911 call is that the operator then tells her, do not interact with him. Right? Makes sense. She's reporting a physical altercation. Don't interact with him. So what does she do? Goes and grabs her phone and starts recording him, trying to provoke him into an argument. And I'm not going to play that whole thing. You have it in evidence. Those last couple of minutes, I think give you a good insight. If she goes out there and is trying to talk to him, and he says, I tried to talk to you. No, you didn't. He says, I tried to talk to you last night. And again, she is surreptitiously recording. She's got the phone held down by the side of her leg. Common sense would tell you when someone's recording their partner, they're on their best behavior. Right? So when she's having this, I don't know if you call it an argument, this discussion with him, she's on her best behavior. Colin isn't. Clearly, he doesn't know he's being recorded because the phone's down by her leg. So that is Colin as he is. And she kind of talks over him, and so it's hard to hear, but you can definitely hear it. When she's sort of going after him, he says, if you talk, I will listen. Depending on what you say, I may or may not respond. That is a very calm and rational response in an even tone. Like I said, and that was Colin in this discussion. And then they kind of go back and forth. I don't trust you with the kids. I don't trust you with the kids. I think what you get from that is she wanted an argument and was frustrated that he just did not seem to want to argue with her. Then she starts picking at him, oh, you're on disability for this. And, because she's talking about he's emotionally unstable. Given her position and the things she's been through, the old saying about if you live in a glass house, you shouldn't throw stones. Because he could have come back and said, well, yeah, you've been Baker acted and you attempted to commit suicide. He didn't say any of that. Because it just seemed like he just didn't want to argue about it. But that is a good insight into sort of their relationship. And at that time, she's reporting, he's just throwing me down. She wanted him to say or do something stupid to the cops. So when they arrive, what did you tell them right off the bat?
What's going on today, ma'am?
So my husband is trying to push the kids. He threw me on the floor and pushed me against the wall.
And this all happened.
So even here, and every time after, the first thing out of her mouth every time is, he's trying to take my kids. And then she relates, he pushed me down. And then a few minutes later is when she talks about, she makes the comment to Deputy Hartberger that he either didn't catch or didn't acknowledge about he raped him over the weekend. But then she also made an interesting comment to her dad.
We had such a good weekend. He's my best friend.
Hold on, speak clearly.
We had such a good weekend together. That's what she's telling her dad later. Now, what does Colin say about what's been going on this day?
She called you right now because she figured out that I want to take my kids to my parents' house in Georgia for her and I to have more for me. I guess me to have a break from her.
He wants to go to Georgia for a break.
This morning?
Yeah, this is probably right around 2 a.m. at this point.
Okay. So what happened today causing her to pick the phone up and call? I guess she called 911. I didn't look.
She found out I was packing my car.
That's what the upset was?
Yes.
That you're going to Georgia to see their grandparents?
Yep.
And your parent?
Yeah, my parents.
Okay. And your kid's grandparent.
So Colin is not just talking about leaving. He's actively packing his truck. This isn't just sort of a idle speculation. He's packing his truck. He's getting ready to leave. And she knows that. This is from our interview later on later.
He was threatening to take the kids.
Okay.
He said that since I had tried to kill myself a couple months ago, that no judge in the world would give me custody of children. And, he was packing
she says he's trying to take the kids. He's packing the truck. And she said, no judge in the world would give me custody because of her recent psychiatric issues. So she knows he's leaving. He's about to leave. He's going to take those kids. She knows she's not going to win this custody battle. So she has to stop him from leaving one way or another. Now, I wish I could stand here and say that nobody would ever accuse anybody of something falsely to gain custody of their kids, but that's not the world we live in. She had to stop him from leaving. He's packing his truck. He is leaving. She's got to stop him from leaving. And so conveniently, right before he's leaving to Georgia, she says he pushes me down. She wanted him taken to jail. And I think you can see that through her interaction with Hartbarger. Because when she realizes that's not happening, she doesn't fill out the witness statement he gives her because she's not getting what she wanted. Take him to jail, and then I get custody of the kids. So I think that should give you some insight as to her mindset as to how this all transpired. Now, obviously all the body cams you have, and you can watch any of them as you want. I try to be cognizant of your value time. So you saw the interactions between them, and Colin's out there with the little kid, and they're looking at the truck, and they leave. And shortly thereafter, she locks Colin outside in the driveway. Why did she do that?
So I closed the garage doors and I locked the door and took the batteries out of the lock so that he could come in and take the kids.
So she locks him outside so that he can't come in and take the kids. Not because he's threatening me or he's going to hit me or she locks him out so he can't take the kids and go to Georgia. That's why she's locking him out. And then he's outside in the driveway in a hot summer Florida day. And he later on said, I was fine with being out there basically because I was away from her. And he calls her command. You heard from beforehand. And he's saying, she's cut off my access to finances. She's taking my credit cards. And he's looking for help. I mean, he's multiple places he's turning to for help. And unfortunately, he didn't get it that day. So he's out there for a while in the heat by himself, probably happy to be out there in the peace and quiet by himself. So at some point, Lainey wakes up, the 3-year-old little girl. She's crying. And so Bree Kuhn takes her, the 3-year-old, outside to Colin so that Colin can help calm her down.
So I took her out front, and he was still there. So I asked her if she wanted Patty. I gave her to him. And he would talk to me.
So, and I hope you can hear that. Again, at this point, they still have that space heater running, so it's hard to hear. And in here, unfortunately, the louder you turn it up, it gets kind of echoey or staticky. So again, you can listen to that. What she says there is, Lainey was crying. I took her outside. I gave Lainey to Colin. And then she says he wouldn't talk to me. She brings him the child so he can calm her down, and he wouldn't talk to me. Shortly thereafter, Colin calls 911. He's now locked outside with Lainey, and you heard her on the 911 call. She's crying, she's upset, she's hot, she's bothered. So he's calling, saying, "Look, now I care because we're both locked out, and I want to go back inside with my daughter." Deputy Jameson Lynn arrives and talks to both of them.
Took my photo ID, all my access to money and everything.
Okay.
And then took the kids inside and locked me out. So they're locked outside in my driveway.
Okay.
For the last couple hours.
Do you live here?
What's that?
Do you live here?
Yeah, we're
Okay.
co-owners for both.
Okay.
So again, I'm locked outside of my driveway. She's taking my stuff. I just want to go in my house.
Something about kids going to Georgia.
Yeah, that was the most closest alligator to the boat.
Okay.
But she was mad that I turned off the Wi-Fi last night, so she
Okay.
washed my laptop in the dishwasher.
Okay.
And that's kind of like the last straw.
You guys,
So, is
are
it
you
legal?
guys still married?
I mean, for now, yeah.
It's still legal. It's common
Yeah.
property.
Yep.
What's yours is hers, and hers is yours. Unfortunately,
Yeah. So she's
Common
not
property.
allowed to stop me from entering my house.
if it's your house and you still live here, by all means, you got to enter your home. However, you got to enter your home.
So a couple of interesting things there. When Deputy Lynn asked him if you're still married, you saw Colin sort of involuntarily glance down at his wedding ring and said, for now. And you can see he's just, he doesn't want to talk to her. Deputy also tells him it's your house. Whatever you need to do, kicking the door, breaking the window, it's your house. You can get in whoever you want. The other interesting thing about this interaction is you see Ms. Kuhn there in the background. And she is just staring him down while he's standing there. I mean, look at her body language. Look at what she's doing. She is staring him down. This is less than an hour before she murders him. And she seems very aggravated And he's just calmly holding his daughter, talking about what's going on. That is a very powerful visual of what is about to happen and what her state of mind is. So then Deputy Lynn talks to her.
What's going on today?
Well, you guys were out here earlier.
I'm
He was trying to take my kids.
1014.
He was trying to take my kids to Georgia.
Okay.
I
Are they your kids or are they yours and his?
these two. Well,
Again, first thing she complains, he's trying to take my kids.
out here because she's used to him and I, so I brought her out here so he can help calm her down. He snatched her from me and then started trying to use her to.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
He said, she doesn't want to come in the house unless daddy's there.
Okay.
Being manipulative.
Okay.
It's not a
So-
good environment.
So there, she's telling the deputy, he snatched Laney from me. You just heard her say she went out there and handed it to him. And then she accuses him of, he's being so manipulative. Well, make up your own minds about that. She continues.
Okay. All right. And same thing, if you change the locks, he's got every right to get in the house. However, he's got to get in the house. Okay. If he lives here, he's got property here. For the betterment of your daughter, whatever you guys got going, you got to put aside for the kids. You see
Well,
what
I
I'm
agree,
saying?
but he told me not to talk to him. So
Okay.
I'm not going to.
Again, she's complaining. He won't talk to me. That's what she keeps complaining about. He won't talk to me.
We can't say, well, you got to stay out in the front yard for the rest of your life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I just
At the risk of a
yeah,
potential
I didn't
argument.
tell you. I just came out
No,
to
I
the
get it. But like I said, I'm letting you know.
Okay.
At some point, we got to put our differences aside for the kids, and we got to say, hey, look, you got a guest bedroom, I got my room, or vice versa, whatever it is. I mean, if y'all sleep in separate rooms, or maybe somebody take a chill pill and sleep on the couch
Right,
tonight,
yeah, he
which
told me that. He told me not to
okay.
talk to him.
All right,
So
well,
I want to get my daughter out of the
Okay.
box and eat, if that's okay. And I have a
I'm perfectly fine with that. But I mean, like I said, it's just something that we got to, I mean, if bringing your daughter inside means he gets to come inside too, that might be something where we got to say, look, let's make a compromise. If you want to come inside with her, that's fine. I'm gonna go to the room and I'm gonna close the door and I'm gonna stay here. But at least your daughter's safe and she's not, out here in the road or whatever, or in the heat, getting bug bites or something like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I'm gonna grab her.
Okay. Let me just get some information from you real quick. What's the kid's name?
Kylie.
Is it KY?
Kylie is my 12-year-old.
K-Y-L-I-E. Okay.
Kuhn. I'm sorry. I really have to go back in because my 4-year-old. Can I just?
Okay.
go?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if he's gonna wait out here for just a second with her, I'll go inside if you want with you. And
I don't want to alone with her.
okay, well then we can all walk back inside.
Okay.
All right.
I don't want that either.
Okay. Well, I mean that's what I'm saying. But we need to check on the 4-year-old. We want to make sure the 4-year-old.
No, that's fine. My 12-year-old's in there. So.
Okay. All right. So so what's Kylie's last name?
Kuhn, Kuhn.
K-U-H-N. What's the middle name?
Should have one.
We should have one. Okay. What's her date of birth?
May 22nd.
Okay.
Yeah, he called you, so can you get the information from him?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, are you not wanting? I'm just trying to get the names of the kids.
Yeah, no, I gave them to the people earlier.
You notice how she's like, could you just call him and get the information from him? Can you just get the information from him since he called you? I mean, lady. Y'all have to excuse me. I had to stop and eat me some noodles real quick.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean,
So I wanted you to see that longer clip because it's indicative of her state of mind and attitude during this whole thing. Again, she's complaining about that he won't talk to her. And then Deputy Lynn, bless him, is trying to propose solutions, compromises, ways to resolve the situation for the betterment of the children. And she is just not interested in any of that. She has no interest in that. And her entire demeanor is just sort of argumentative and combative. Now, if she's that way with a deputy, standing there in uniform, what's she going to be like with her husband? I mean, are you surprised that he keeps telling her, I don't want to talk to you? I mean, can you blame the guy? She is just clearly increasingly frustrated with the whole thing because she's not getting her way. I said, she's not interested in a compromise. She wants her way. She wants those kids. She wants him gone. And she's going to see to that. Meanwhile, in the background, you've got Colin just walking around laughing and playing with Laney. Does he seem aggravated or frustrated? I mean, he literally said, I'm happy that I'm locked out here in the driveway because I'm away from her. This is the situation 45 minutes for the murder. This is what's building and what's leading up to it. Ultimately, Deputy Lynn gets her to agree to let him inside with the child. She then locks him out in the garage. And Colin texts Hardy at 6:13 that he is locked in the garage. And you saw the text messages between Mr. Joyner and Mr. Turner. And Colin's saying, she's crazy as hell. And at 6:13, he says, she locked me in the garage. Why? Why does he say? He says, she just locked me in the garage because I wouldn't talk to her. Which, as you're saying, is the thing she keeps complaining about. He won't talk to me, he won't talk to me, he won't talk to me. So then she locks him out in the garage. That's 9 minutes before he calls 911. 6:22, Colin calls 911. You've heard that call? He, on that phone call, is the same way he is at all the times during that day. Whether he's on with 911, whether he's talking to the deputies, whether he's being secretly recorded, he's calm, he's rational, he's explaining what's going on. I mean, if anything, he just sounds a little disheartened. And he's relaying to them what's happened. She's locked me out in the garage. You guys have been out here twice today already. And she comes out there and shoots him. And it's so out of place and so shocking and with no context that you heard the surprise of the 911 operator who asks, what was that? Because there was absolutely no context. You know, when she works for 911, she probably hears a lot on 911 calls. You know, people fighting, screaming, yelling, gunshots. But here there was nothing, absolutely nothing, until he got shot in the back. This is State's Exhibit 12. You can see that door to the garage leading out. And you can see the little Yeti cooler, probably, I don't know, 8 feet from the door, and where Colin was found. Not in the doorway, not by the door. He's well into the garage. What does Ms. Kuhn say about it?
Just for right now, okay?
Just for your safety for ours, okay?
I'm a murderer.
So listen, you're not listening to me. You're not under arrest right now. You're being detained, okay? We'll investigate.
No, you should arrest me. I killed my husband. Hopefully I just shot him. Maybe he's not dead. He should not be dead.
She says 2 things there that are supported by all the evidence. 1, I'm a murderer. 2, he should not be dead. Absolutely. So let's talk about the injuries that Colin suffered. Gunshot wound to the upper back, comes out of his neck, ends up lodged in his wrist. Breaks his ribs, but this one goes through the trapezius muscles, the cervical vertebrae. Now, obviously we weren't there, we didn't see it. Logical conclusion is that he's either holding the phone or is like this as the bullet comes in the back, out the neck, and ends up into his wrist. Shot in the back to front. Second gunshot, again in the upper back, goes through his ring, ribs, lungs, back to front, comes out through the chest. Third gunshot in the right of his back, again goes through his right ribs, lung, sternum, exits his chest. Fourth gunshot, then the left lower back, goes through his spleen, goes through his heart, and is ultimately recovered. You heard Dr. Oleski's testimony about these injuries, about how each one, likely in and of itself, would have been a fatal gunshot wound. And what does that tell you? These were kill shots. You know, we talked about premeditation, the circumstances of the killing. What was her intent? How do we know what her intent was? These gunshots tell you her intent. 4 kill shots right to the back. Her intent was very clear. Now you have the pictures, of the autopsy pictures, which I'm not going to put up here. But if you have questions or want to look at them, they're all in evidence. You will see those wounds on his back that the doctor described. They are perfect little circles. I always think sometimes they almost look like cigarette burns, just perfect little circles, look almost harmless sometimes. Those are entrance wounds. Exit wounds he has on his chest, much larger, much more ragged as the bullet comes out. Those are very, very clear. I said, if you have any questions or as to what that evidence shows you, I would urge you to look at those autopsy photos. And you clearly see the difference between entrance wounds and exit wounds. It's night and day. Plus the fact that he's got 4 holes in his back and 2 in his chest. He was shot 4 times in the back. That's what that physical evidence shows. It's very clear. So Ms. Kuhn is taken to the station, interviewed by Detectives Rao and Kelly. Again, that's a fairly long interview. If you want to watch it again, you can. But I did want to just highlight some of the things that she talked about.
After they left, when I know I called my mom. he was in the garage again, and I locked him out. I locked it for some reason. I think to talk to him.
You locked him out for some reason, and that was the
No,
talk.
I locked him out. He was in the garage. I locked him out.
Okay.
But he didn't. He was still in the garage. I was open the door to talk to him. And he tried coming in, so I blocked the door, and he kicked my foot and was trying to push to go to the door. And I was trying to keep him out. I don't. And then I shot him.
So her version is she locked him out. She went to the door to talk to him, and he tried coming inside and then was kicking her foot, so she shot him. Now, again, you should be thinking to yourself, I've seen the physical evidence, I've heard the 911 call. That is not what happened. That's clear. But also, even if her version there is true, right, let's ignore the physical evidence for a minute. Let's ignore the 911 call. Let's just say that version is true. She opens the door, he kicks her foot, she's trying to block him as he comes in. That's still murder. I read to you the self-defense instruction. Imminent danger of death or great bodily harm. Kicking somebody in the foot doesn't mean you get to shoot them 4 times. That's it. Let's just pretend for a moment all of that was accurate. Still not self-defense. So that's her story. Now you may ask yourself, why is she telling this story? And the logical conclusion that comes to mind is that she never realized he was on the phone with 911. Right? She opens that door, fires that first shot, and ultimately the phone was found sort of underneath him. She didn't know he was on the phone with 911. And she never realized the difference when he said, she just shot me. He didn't say you just shot me. It didn't occur to her the difference. She didn't know he was on the phone with 911. So she's telling the detectives this, thinking, hey, there's no other witness besides my brother. And this is what happened. She continues.
He was still coming towards me. I don't think I shut the door, and I went. To get my kids, and I took him out of the house.
She is insisting after she shot him, he is still coming towards her. That's just not what the physical evidence shows. But that's her version. He's still coming towards her, even after I shot him, so I had to shut the door and get in the house to get away from him. That's not what the evidence shows. She continues.
Sure. So just to kind of.
I didn't mean to shoot him. It was at least twice I didn't mean to shoot him, but I did. And he said something, and just the look on his face.
What was the look on his face?
He was gonna kill me. And that's how I was shot him.
Okay.
So, a good bit to unpack in that statement there. She says, I didn't mean to shoot him. Okay. She wasn't cleaning the gun and it went off. Okay. She went to the door, shot him 4 times in the back. She's telling the police, I didn't mean to shoot him. You absolutely meant to shoot him and kill him. No matter how you try and describe it, that is crystal clear. I didn't mean to shoot him. Yeah, you did. And then she says, he said something and had this look on his face. He was going to kill me. That sounds good. It sounds like self-defense. He was going to kill me. Well, you know what he was saying because you've heard it. He was speaking calmly in a rational manner. She is sitting there telling he was going to kill me. No, he wasn't. But again, she doesn't know he was on the phone. So in her mind, how would you disprove? And you think about this for a moment. And again, she may have not been aware of forensic pathology, and I don't know how well it's commonly known. So let's ignore forensic pathology for a moment and consider her version here if Colin was not on the phone with 911. Could this version be disproved? Right? She's saying he's coming at me. He's gonna kill me. He's kicking me. Right? This is probably what we'd be left with. Luckily, Colin called 911. Unfortunately, Colin did not call 911 in time to save his own life. But him calling 911 hopefully will ensure that his murderer does not get away with it. She didn't know all that.
Why did you have the gun when you went to the garage door? Do you know?
I just wanted him to go.
Detective Rowell asked her, why did you go to the door with the gun? The answer is because she wanted to kill her husband. That's clear. She tells him, I just wanted to go. He's locked outside. We're in the house. Okay, that's the opposite of I just wanted to go. That's, I'm going to go kill my husband. But she is sitting there saying, I just wanted to go. This is what she's telling the police. Now, she had plenty of options. Now, again, she doesn't have a duty to retreat. She's not legally obligated to leave the house. But she's saying, I just wanted to go. No, you just wanted to go kill your husband. That's what she wanted.
I couldn't get in the front door because I had taken out the batteries from earlier.
Front door was locked. Colin couldn't get in the house. He was locked out. She couldn't even get back in the front door.
The jail, they don't.
Hey, Bree, where were your babies at when this went down?
They were in my room.
They were in your room? Okay. Do they normally hang out in there, or did you tell them to go to your room?
I don't know.
You're not sure? Okay. You've got two small ones, and you have a 12-year-old girl. Okay. Where was your 12-year-old at?
With them.
They were with them in your room?
Yeah.
Okay. Was he on the...
All the children are in her room. And again, we talk about premeditation, talk about the circumstances behind the killing. All the children are in her room. Her gun is kept in her closet. So again, whether it's 1 minute, 10 minutes, kids are in her room. Clearly, she goes to her room, retrieves the firearm, goes back to the door to kill Colin. That is premeditation. Judge, if you could blank the screen. Now that interview continues, and again, I'm not going to sit here and play the whole thing. You can watch it if you want, because the detectives continue, and they keep asking her very pertinent questions. What was he doing when you opened the door? Where was he standing? Did he have anything in his hands? And every time, she simply avoided the question. I mean, they must have asked her 5 times. Every time, she answers, but says something like, oh, I just tried to help him, or there was so much blood. She does not want to answer those questions. And again, we know why. Because we know what Colin was doing when she opened the door. She doesn't want to answer those questions. She doesn't have an answer for those questions. Your job now is to evaluate all the evidence you've seen and heard. And I hope you'll see that it's very clear what happened. She's getting increasingly frustrated throughout the course of the day. She's not getting away. Colin's he doesn't want to talk to her. She knows he wants to take those kids. She knows he's going to win the custody battle. Now, again, premeditation does not mean a logical, calm decision, because obviously killing your husband to gain custody of your children is not a good plan. So premeditation is not planning or a calm, logical decision. It's just intent with time for reflection. The evidence shows, again, we'll never know exactly how much time. She locked him out, went and got her gun, went to the door, came back, and shot him in the back 4 times. That's the evidence. And that is premeditated murder. Thank you.
If the attorneys will approach.
I'd say that he
members of
got
the
a.
jury, we're going to take a brief recess. We'll try to be back here in court in about 10 minutes. Please not discuss the case among yourselves. Leave your notepads and papers underneath your seats, and we'll be back with you momentarily.
The rest of the jury.
I feel he did a really good a close there. everything he said resonated with me the entire trial as I watched it. There was just the more I
All right, we'll
watched
be in
it,
recess for 10 minutes.
the more infuriated I became for true victims. And that's what people just they don't get. You know, all you people out there claiming BS, you're making it harder for the true victims. You really are. But you know, Bree, your story is not even close to being believable. It is so obvious, in my opinion, that the only reason that you killed your husband was that you did not want him to be able to have custody of the children, even if it meant for a break, which clearly I think you both needed when you aren't adult enough to realize it's not time to be blasting a TV and trying to listen to music when your husband and two children are trying to sleep and then throwing a fit, getting mad. And I've never even heard of anybody putting a laptop in the dishwasher. I'm sure you're not the only one. You're probably not the first, and you probably won't be the last. But see, I wouldn't even think of stuff like that. I mean, that's worse than tit for tat. It really is. But and then your brother getting up there lying the way he did, and it was obvious. It was blatantly obvious. There was nothing but a lie. I will say at least you put the children in the room. You probably told your older daughter not to come out for any reason and not to let the children out for any reason, or at least I would hope so. But that's how I see it. And yeah, I'm not a mind reader. I don't have ESP. I don't have any of those special things that are used to determine someone's guilt by body language or whatever. But there's there's not even an there's not even an iota, not even a cent, not even a scintilla of evidence to show you were afraid of anything. And you know, it's really, really bad. I mean, I know what it's like to love and love so hard you would do anything in the world. I love my children. I love my husband. There's nothing I wouldn't do for them within reason. I'm not going to break the law for them. I'm not going to help them break the law. I'll stand behind them when they face their consequences. But you, young lady, did your daddy ever tell you no? And your brother? It's obvious that his reputation means absolutely nothing to him because he'll get up on a stand and lie. And I don't know what else to say. All right, let's skip it. Y'all don't want to listen to me ramble, and I just want to get to Lord help us. This guy I may put on 1.50. We'll start him out at 1.50. He's so slow normally,
All rise for the jury, please.
but then you can barely understand him. So I mean, once kind of like Lolly, if I just do this, I'll get by.
All right, everybody can be seated. Mr. Barnes, you ready to give your closing?
Yes, sir. May it please the court, Mr. Alderman. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I'm James Barnes. Didn't have a whole lot of work in the trial, and then the division of labor was certainly askew. That happens. It's a fluid event. I thought I'd get up to bat more. This is my 134th criminal trial, and I'm going to make an admission to you. I'm nervous. I'm nervous. I'm nervous because I don't know if I'm going to be able to get everything out. And I'm nervous because 3 years ago, Bree Kuhn, her family, picked me. Mr. Etheridge came on the case later, but they picked me. And we all know that the woods are full of lawyers. And, you know, as you work up to this event, I go back to what I told them, what my promise was. And my promise was that I would follow my oath, that I would do everything I could for her. And, you worry that when you get here, sometimes the closings come out the way you want them, sometimes they don't. They're a little bit like snowflakes. They're all different. But then when I was thinking about my oath, I realized that, well, this buggy has a lot of seats in it. Because you guys took an oath. And you're going to follow your oath. It's interesting. You come in on Monday to jury selection and ask you to stand up and you take the oath. And I'm sure there's not much, reflection about that. It's like, now I stand up and then you come in here and you take the oath when they swear you in, when the judge swears you in. But you took an oath. You took an oath. You probably didn't even know the words in that oath. But you took an oath to try this case fairly and to keep an open mind and to look at all the evidence and to try this case against the backdrop of reasonable doubt and presumption of innocence. All criminal cases throughout the country are about one thing. People will say, well, what's this case about? And my wife will say, tell me.
Okay, I'm sorry, but I just have to say this. I mean, I understand he took an oath, but this man stood right there and lied. I don't know how many times. Ball face lied. Now, I believe that you are allowed to lie if you're a police officer and you're trying to get someone to talk to you about something, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't think lawyers are supposed to or allowed to outright lie. But the more I watch you guys, y'all have no problem getting up on that podium and lying. So I just had to say that. But he's the typical, and the one for Sarah Boone, between him and this one, they're the reason I dislike a lot of attorneys. I mean, I just think you should have a soul. I don't mean to say that ugly. I mean, I know everybody's entitled to representation. But come on, people, when you have clients that are guilty as everything can be, I just don't think you should be able to play the game. I, 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 I don't know how you get around that, but I don't think you should be able to play a game. So I just had to say that because he's just irritating me. Especially, I mean, when, I had to re-listen to when Bree was talking about her little boy hitting his head on the gun. That was a ball-faced lie. If you paid attention to when he was in the vehicles and when he got out of the vehicles, and she's supposed to be watching him, she's all concerned about Colin not being safe with him, but yet he hits his head on the gun when he's in her care. And this dimwit, he stands there and says it too. When common sense, if you paid attention to the body cam footage, it was impossible. She was all finished with the red truck by then. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but enough.
What's this case about that you have? It's all about the same thing. It's all about whether or not the state can prove the allegations. Now, as it turned out, the last witness that we heard in this case was Mr. Alderman. He, and I'll get into this later, but he took some liberties, looked at the evidence, made some statements. They're not facts. They're not facts. It's you guys that I care about. Okay, it's you guys. The other thing in this case that had me concerned, more nervous probably than I usually am, is that we started the case with the bang. I guess pun intended. Very, very powerful stuff, right? You agreed keep an open mind, presumption of innocence, reasonable doubt. And then you hear the 911 call. And, I've listened to it, I don't know, a dozen times or so probably over the last 3 years. And that first shot, it gets you. I kind of jump every time. And I looked over at everybody. People's look ranges, of course, but it was like, wow. It was like almost, what are we doing here, right? What are we doing here? And I realized at that point in time that presumption of innocence and reasonable doubt, they had left the courtroom. Those two were somewhere else. And that's okay. That's okay. Because
They saw it.
when you hear that as a human being, and you've never heard anything like that before, it's okay. But you have to come back
No, you don't.
to reasonable doubt and presumption of innocence, ultimately. And I'm confident, again, when I reflected on your oath, and we picked you guys, right? It was a vetting.
This just makes me
It
mad.
took a while. And I said, okay, there's going to be, the sympathy factor, and the judge is going to tell you that there's no place for that here. No place for that here. We ask you to bring in your common sense, but we tell you to leave your emotions at the door. It's kind of a strange parlor trick, I suppose. The thing with this case, to me, was always the why, right? Why did it happen? Why did it happen? And Mr. Alderman, I can hear him now. He's going to say, I don't have to prove why did this happen. I guess he has a version of that, including tales of Bree Kuhn hitting herself, and all sorts of things that we'll get into here, in a little bit. You're going to hear a lot about reasonable doubt. As I go through, and ultimately as you go through the evidence, you look for the three areas, right? You know what they are. Where does reasonable doubt come from? It comes from a lack of evidence. I'll give you an example. I mean, there's a lot of lack of evidence, but how about the camera, body cam that the guys had when they went up to Pennsylvania?
You want to maybe object and approach? Or I'm going to object and maybe approach?
You may.
Why didn't they put it in? I don't know. Do they need it? No. Can you imagine the asshat when they interviewed him? No telling what all he said. I mean, this is ridiculous. Now he's trying to lie in his closing. Or toss shade, I should say. See, I know you have a job to do. I do. I get that. But to tell people, oh, but you got to come back to reasonable doubt. No, no. You're seeing this stuff. I mean, you heard him on the phone get shot. He was locked in the garage.
Here's the thing. Lack of evidence, and we're going to go through some of this, okay? Conflict in the evidence itself. That's where you get the reasonable doubt from. All right. The state must prove this case a couple of keys. Premeditation. Premeditation. There is no witness, or so no evidence of premeditation. None. None. I mean, he's got a great tale, I suppose. But Bree Kuhn is supposed to put her kids here, and I'm going to get my gun, and I'm going to walk into the garage, and I don't know that he's on with 911, but what difference would it make who he's on with? It makes it a little interesting, obviously, that he's on with 911, but if he's on the phone, that's a witness anyway. I mean, if it's premeditated, wouldn't she wait? I mean, you do it a different way. Just don't go in and I'm going to do it this way, right? If that's this is her scheme, right? This is her, her plan. It makes no sense. There isn't any evidence of that. You can tell afterwards. She's in shock. Everyone says she's in shock. Anybody that came in touch with her, she's in shock. You can tell she's in shock. You're not in shock if you deliberately, intentionally, and more importantly, planned to kill somebody. You're in shock.
Did he just say that? Is he the biggest idiot in the world? You're going to tell me that just because you planned it means that you won't go into shock, right? Did I hear you right? Because if so, you are so full of crap right there. I can't even imagine how I would feel if that were me. I mean, if you're gonna kill somebody and you know you're gonna kill somebody and you're thinking about killing somebody and you have all the reasons and you tell yourself, oh, you can get away with it or whatever. You pull that trigger, it is not the same, little dude. It is not the same. That really pisses me off. 'Cause I would think even an asshole would be in shock, unless it's something they do for a living.
Shock if you run somebody over in the road and you're surprised. That's the shock. Man, she must be the greatest actor in the world because, sorry, I don't hold it too. One minute, she's this, I'm going to plan it out. I'm going to put the kids here. I'm going to go get my gun. I'm just going to go and shoot them. And then the next minute, she's saying, why isn't somebody in an ambulance? Is he dead? It's kind of what happened. And then, slashing out, if he's dead, I'm a murderer. And it's all haywire up there, right? If this is premeditated, she's going to shoot him. She's going to have a different demeanor. What happened after the shots? What did she do? She gets her kids. This is all about her kids. You know how many times she said kids in this trial? I'm sorry. In this, trial, through the evidence, if you listen to all the body cams and so forth, 70 times. 70 times. This entire case is about her protection of her children. The number one instinct that human beings have, mother protecting kids. Number one. Okay. Sorry, I've got some notes here, obviously. All right, let's kind of walk through it all. Right? Walk through it all. Let's get to know these two. First, let's take us to Key Largo. The couple goes to Key Largo. Now, it's interesting that the brother has to come along. He said, yeah, they kind of wanted me there to temper anything. All right. So there's, friction. And what do we learn from that? We learn that Colin says we're both psychopaths and narcissists. Right. So keep that in the back of your mind. Additionally, he has 100% disability from brain injury. Keep that in the back of your mind. Now, let's move then to get to know Colin a little better with this suicide attempt. There's no contradiction to this evidence. Eric Kuhn realizes that his sister has taken a bottle full of pills, drank a significant amount of wine. He calls down to Colin. Right? This is how much Colin cares for this woman. Well, what in the world is he doing? He knows she's upstairs, had just taken the pills and the wine. And Eric says, hey, you called EMS, right? No. What? And then we're supposed to believe that this guy is a good husband and it's all her. That's crazy. If that call didn't exist between those guys, and if this suicide didn't happen and it's all just made up, Mr. Alderman would be giving you proof of that. Now let's talk about Eric Kuhn. Do you think for a minute, if his testimony, because we're going to talk about his testimony here in a little bit coming up, and I've already referenced him a couple times, and some of you might be thinking, well, how was he such a great historian? Do you think for a minute, if he was going to fly in here, right? And we brought him here, state didn't. Kind of important. He's the only, I guess, other than a 911 caller, but he's the only other witness. You would think that if it's all orchestrated, man, we'd have had it down, right? We'd have had it tight. He's doing the best he can. Do you think that he would have said, no, that, I realize that, my sister kind of laughed and said she was a psychopath too. I mean, right? It would have been, we would have gotten a lot more out of that. But it was important for him to talk to you because clearly, when you go back and you listen, there's a struggle going on there. The guy's doing the best he can. His sister ends up getting arrested, and we want to browbeat him over some choice of words that really, okay. The point of all of that is he heard what he heard and he did his best to describe it. But he's not watching it. He's not seeing it. So no, you don't just reject his testimony because he gets some, he gets some words wrong that really, I mean, no one's in here. I mean, we're not in here saying that Colin was trying to kidnap, his kids or kidnap, his stepdaughter. So what does that, what does any of that matter, right? What does any of that matter? All right. We've got apparently a woman who diabolically, right, planned this, this crime, right? She's got suicide attempts, 2 Baker Acts, hospitalizations. She's doing the best she can, but she's got some issues. She's not scheming this whole thing, right? She's not, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to first call the police, and then this is going to happen, and that's going to happen. And ultimately, I'm just going to, go in and shoot him. That makes no sense. Obviously, the white elephant in the room, and why we're here to a large degree in terms of the why. The police. Okay, the police. She cries out for help to them. She's relying on them. She's raped. And for anybody that thinks a husband can't rape his own wife, well, you can go back to about 1950, right? With those kinds of thoughts. Obviously, that can happen. And she calls the police. She's had enough. She gets thrown on the ground, and she makes a call. They get there, and it's really kind of just a checklist deal that they go through. And while you got the kids running everywhere too, which is odd, right? She's giving her, like, she's telling the cop that she was battered. And he's saying, you have to have signs of the injury, and this is Hartbarger, obviously. You have to have signs of the injury. Can't do anything about that. She says, while her kids are there, right? So she can't really get into too much detail. But so she says, was also raped. I don't know. Had he already made up his mind? Was it just going to come in here, I'm going to check this thing, and I'm going to head out? If he had heard that, well, there'd be a rape kit. There'd be action taken. At least the two would have been separated. No, nothing. And conveniently, well, I didn't hear her. All right, well, that's too bad, right? That's too bad because we rely on the police. She was relying on the police. They turned her back on her right from the jump. Now, in terms of the sequence, we didn't see the body cam of Quick until yesterday, and that's fine. But that one is interesting, and they say the devil is in the details. When Quick is talking to Colin, he's explaining to him why people can't go to jail. They're not going to take anybody to jail. You have to have marks and so on. And he says, one of you is going to have to snap first. Wow. Okay. One of you is going to have to snap first. Is that what? Meanwhile, we've got Bree inside saying, I guess he's just going to have to, I'm going to have to let him punch me in the face, I suppose. I'm going to have to give in to his aggressions. Do you think that this situation where the police go, the testimony of the evidence is 5 times in total, do you think that this situation is harmony? It's pretty reasonable to think that there's some physical going on, right? Anyway, back to Quick and Colin. Someone's going to have to snap. But you know what is interesting? And I didn't catch this until, I don't know, believe it or not, a couple of days ago. So you've had this thing for 3 years. You prepare in earnest when you get closer to a trial, obviously. when Colin is, again, talking to Quick says, again, we're going to have to see some objective sign of injury, kind of the same thing that's, going on with Hartbarger inside. Look for it. Watch it again. Colin pauses, and you can see the wheels turning. He's like, maybe, actually says, maybe it's worth doing that. Maybe it's worth doing that. And so now what does he have? He's got someone's going to have to snap, and his wheels are spinning. Okay, I see now how I've got to play this thing out. Now, another key point is when the police get there, Colin's sitting out front. I mean, he's waiting for this. Thank you for showing up so quickly. My man, she called the police on you. Quick says to him, tell me what's up. Well, first he says, you want like you had two versions, right? Do you want my line by line, or you want my summary? I mean, he's ready to go. He starts off with, she's tried to commit suicide. She's crazy. She's been Baker acted. And I don't know, there's a minute or two where Quick is like, all right, man, I get it, but tell me what happened to cause her to call today. But Colin wants to deliver that. That's not the most interesting part of all this. The most interesting part of all this is I've never heard of this. Colin realizes the police are coming, right? So he's poised, he's ready to go, he's going to report all the problems. She's the mental health victim. He changes his clothes. All right. Odd in and of itself. But when he talks about it, he says, yeah, I got into some shorts that don't have any pockets. And right after that, I put my gun in my car. What does that tell us? What's that tell you? He walks around the house strapped, man. He walks around the house armed.
I'm going to object.
Overruled for now.
Go back and watch it. Go back and watch it.
It is not.
I don't have any pockets. Put my gun. Why would you be? Your gun is in a safe place where it should be. Why in the world would you be putting it in your car? Where we'll add that the kids end up in.
You're
Right?
such an idiot.
This whole thing is about her trying to protect her kids. And we've got him taking his gun, putting it on the dashboard. And the kids end up in there. What? But we're supposed to just believe everything, that we can through Colin. Which, by the way, I'm going to get back into this later. When he calls the police, the final time, he says, she tried to break my arm. Okay.
Well, here we go.
There's zero evidence of that, number one. Number two, if Bree has made this whole thing, up, I guess at one point she's hitting herself. But you don't see any marks on her. I mean, she's going to hit herself. She's going to go to that much trouble. And it just, it doesn't add up, right? She's going to go to that much trouble of hitting herself, but then shoot him. It's a train wreck, man. It's a train wreck. I'm going to get back into that. I'm going to get back into that later on. But where I am now is, why is he calling 911? Because he's locked in his garage? This guy's a Marine. Dude, you're locked in your own garage? I guess, the other Marines would probably have some fun with that. You can't get through the door in your house? And by the way, locked in the garage, devil's in the details. When you listen to this, he's locked in the garage, it always turns into he's locked out of the house. She takes the batteries out of the front door, but it's a modern home. You push the button, you get out. And she opened the door. All right, back to why is Colin calling the police? Well, she tried to break my arm. Where along the line did that happen? I guess Bree's hitting herself, but she's not physical with Colin. We have no idea. We have no idea what in the world is going on moments before this call that apparently she conveniently doesn't know that he's on the phone. We have no idea, right? We've got the brother trying to do the best he can. Obviously you can hear. But what's he said, right? What's he said? Now, if you go back to, he's thinking, I see now what I have to do. If we're gonna talk about, take some liberties, the whole scheme that Mr. Alderman went through, that whole scheme. How about he's calling 911? Why? Because he wants to call 911, be the guy that made the call, because it's about to go down.
Because
It's
she locked
about to
her
go down.
ass. He
What other
locked her
reason is he
ass.
calling 911?
Oh my God.
For his arm that there's zero evidence of? Bree knows it's about to go down. She says later he gives a look. Yeah, she's seen that look before. She knows that look. What do you think's going to happen after he hangs up that phone? Well, she knew. I mean, it's on now. Look, he's got it set up, right? He called 911. Something goes down. She's the mental patients. There's evidence that he calls 911. It works, right? It's not. You got to get past this whole thing. To convict her, you got to answer that question. Why is he calling? Why is he calling?
And I object. This is a misstatement of the law.
I'll sustain the objection as raised.
Here's the thing. Again, Mr. Alderman's going to say, all I have to do is hit these points, right? It's real simple, right? The example was the cake, I think. I'm sure he says. The egg, the flour, the milk, that's what you need to make a cake. It's 3 things. And these are just the things that I need. Well, can we please ask if the egg's really an egg? If the milk's expired? I mean, can we get behind the evidence a little bit? All right. I know I'm jumping around. I don't mean to be necessarily doing that. Okay. Obviously, I've said some things. All right. What do we know about the night before? Because it all matters. Colin is so concerned that Bree is going to hurt the kids, or he's going to take these kids. And by the way, this is why I'm jumping around, because I digress. I shouldn't do that. But by the way, is it lost on anybody that what the Marines do? They extract people, bad guys, right? We all know this. If he wants to take the kids, take the darn kids. Take the kids. No, he's not interested in that. Wants to hang out, man. Wants to hang out in this harmonious situation. Cop said, you want to take him, take him. The Marine who's locked in his own garage and he can't seem to extract a couple little kids. Anyway, the night before, Bree is asleep, snoring. Now, Colin, again, where do we get all this from? We get it from Colin talking to Quick. And you can go back and look at it, but at first, Colin says, yeah, it was physical last night. I got physical. I went in to the bed. Bree is snoring. I think it's around 2 a.m. She has her arm around one of the kids. And he's so concerned, I guess, that this snoring person with her arm around her child is going to hurt the child. Takes the kid. You come with me. You're going to sleep on the couch. Also, they get into this major fight because the volume's too high. I mean, the world's going on. Just go to another room. Go read a book. I mean, get the volume too high. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut off the Wi-Fi. You see, you get the theme. You get the theme. It's continued torment and dominance. I try to commit suicide. You didn't even call EMS. It's this cycle. this cycle. Battered wife. She,
You want to approach?
We may? Okay.
Yep, we may.
I got a lot I can say. So, if she's seen that look before, while his back was turned and he looked at her like he was going to kill her, why is she still alive? Of course, since she opened the door and all she saw was his back, where's the look?
Withdraw the objection.
okay. I think you get the idea. Building. And until, somebody snaps. It's like that director, I forget his name, shows you bits and pieces of the movie and moves around. Not the best way to deliver it, but. Well, now let's get back to the failure of the police to protect this woman. We have Deputy Lynn, who comes back, and he's the, let me just cast my hand over these troubled waters. You two really just need to get along. You'd think that in today's society, computerized and all, that before going to this place, he would, he'd look and see, have we been here before? And he'd pull it up, and he would have some knowledge of it. It'd be, it'd be comprehensive, right? No, he shows up. He doesn't know what happened. Doesn't know what happened before. Now this time, Colin's the one who calls. Why does he call? He wants to get another call in, right? So ultimately, this is going to come to a head, man. And he wants his calls in. And his call this time, oddly enough, I'm out here in the street. Can she keep me locked out of my own home? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Imagine if the answer's, well, yeah, if you're out and she's in there, the law is that you're done, man. You could be a day, could be a week. Game over. What? Who does that? Well, people that want to kind of give a blow by blow what's going on, right? So we got Lynn there. He's talking to Colin. Possession's 9. It's actually 9 points of the law. I don't think most people know that, but it's not 9 tenths, but it jumps that late. He's telling him, take the kids. Take the kids. It's not, not possession's 9 tenths. You can break the window and go in. At the same time, he's like, listen. We just gotta get along. Well, he goes to talk to Bree, and he delivers the same kind of spirit of everybody just got to get along. I mean, wouldn't that be great, right? We call the police, and we didn't call for a priest or a counselor. Anyhow, he goes to Bree and he says, "Man, you just need to talk. We can get along." Well, and she keeps saying he won't talk to me. I mean, is that the motive here for this whole deal? That she's so worked up that he won't talk to her. And I kind of lost track in the beginning of Mr. Alderman's deal. I don't know if he was trying to say that Colin was willing to talk or not willing to talk, but you can hear on the video where she's saying, hey, can we talk? Can we talk? I mean, that's a woman who the next day is going to premeditated murder. Anyway, I'm a jumper, right? I'm a jumper. But Lynn's talking to her, and you just need to work it out. Well, in the world can you work it out? He won't talk to me. But somehow, in this murder trial, that's where the state is. And for those who think that, and this is easy, what are we doing here? We listen to the bangs. She shot him. She said she shot him. She said she was a murderer. So it's over, right? What are we doing here? No, man. No. You're going to follow your oath. You're going to go behind the evidence. You're going to wonder, why are we talking about this? I guess it's a motive. What? And again, small detail, but an interesting one, under the theme of the police don't do anything to help her, right? I get the argument, right? I get the argument. Well, the police didn't shoot him. No, man. It's all this torment leads her to call. Who in the world is going to say they were raped if it's just all, just I get them out of here kind of thing. It's all building up. And Lynn, this is a good one. This is a good one. Lynn says, if you need anything, just call us. She gives a little bit of a laugh. And I do too. Oh, I'll be sure to do that. Hell, I called you I've told you. You haven't done anything. I came down and you let my kid go look at your car. That's a nice enough thing to do. Nice guy. Nice guy. Do your job, man. Before I forget. Of course, Lynn comes back after the shooting, right? And it's his body cam that we're seeing, when Bree's like catatonic. Bravo, bravo, good job. We're gonna win this case, we're gonna send you to Hollywood. And talk about Florida. Lynn says to her, okay, Rebecca. He didn't even get her name right.
He was trying to be polite. He tried to remember. Jackass.
I'll tell you. Because it shows an absolute and utter indifference in the way she was treated. Rebecca. He didn't even call her Brenda, right? Bonnie. He didn't even get the B right. I don't know. Here's the thing. As a lawyer, you're defending somebody in a murder case. You may say, man, what does that have to do with anything? I mean, you're just nitpicky, man. You're just nitpicky. That's part of my oath to bring that up. So I apologize to anybody who just, kind of wants to get out of here. And I pray that you're not there. All right. With Lynn, she says, I locked him out because I didn't want to have this argument in front of the kids. Now, for anybody that thinks that, Bree is at a point where she thinks that Colin's going to hurt the kids, well, then, I think it'd be fair game to say, well, then you got to take the kids out, right? She's not quite there. Not quite there. Because she brings your daughter out. So if anybody thinks that's like an aha, I mean, she's trying to function, right? She's trying to function. She's trying to some interaction with her father. I mean, it hasn't reached quite the boiling point yet. All right. A lot of this I've covered, and I apologize to be so note bound. Normally I'm not. All right, a lot's been made about, what Bree said afterwards. If any among you don't think that this woman's in shock, then I got a lot of work to do. She's clearly in shock. Clearly. She gathers her kids afterwards. She goes and stands. Remember, this is premeditated. She goes and stands, huddles up, I guess, with the kids. Jumper. After she checks on her husband, that she intentionally reflected is what the element is. Time of reflection. Anyway, after that, she gets the kids, goes over to the neighbor's house. And then again, under the heading of she's not quite right, she's in shock. Because why is that important? Because so much that she said in the interview is now, this beacon of information. And she's standing out there huddled up with the kids at a neighbor's house that she doesn't really even know. They never said they knocked on the door or anything. She's just standing there. She's white as a ghost. I'll talk about objective signs, right? It's an objective sign of shock, obviously. And what is her concern? What's the theme? The theme is torment. The theme is all she really cares about is her children and their safety. So she says to the different neighbor, I'm not as good with the names as Randy is. Like that old guy that calls his kids by different names. Will you take care of my kids? Will you take care of my kids? What's going on there, man? What's going on there? She's the abusive relationship He said, well, when did she just divorced? Well, he gets, I mean, all right, but she's not going to get custody. And she said something about, he said to her, no one's going to believe you, you're a crazy bitch, and I'm not going to get custody and stuff. Well, she sure got custody from Special Agent Hardy, right? Anyway, the theme is the torment. The theme is that this woman really just cares about her kids, this diabolical killer who says 70 times, kids, kids, kids. And then, she's at the car, and what she says there is being used against her. I mean, can you imagine, right? Can you imagine? Well, why isn't there an ambulance here? Why don't you guys get check out? This person has intentionally killed her husband. But aha, she says she's a murderer. There you go. That's an admission. Let's wrap it up. Let's go. I don't know which officer it was. I wish I got her name. She says, look, don't say anything right now. Don't say anything right now. Why? Why? Well, maybe she hasn't read her Miranda rights by then, but man, please love when suspect. When people talk, right? I love it. But finally, there's a drip of compassion in the female officer. Female, kind of fits. Just don't say anything. Haven't seen it in 35 years. Good for you. A little late. But good for you. Well, where are we, right? We're in the area now of who's in shock. So when she goes to the interview, I don't know, maybe it's me, but it's not, I hate to tell people that they didn't do a good job in their profession that I'm not even in, but really, you're going to let this fan blaze the whole time? That's not interviewing 101, right? But what has happened in this case is that everything that she has said there is now being, dissected, looked at under a microscope. She said that, so it fits back here, and but the sources of what she said. Again, she's in shock, right? If somebody took the witness stand and they were in shock, the judge wouldn't even let them. I mean, people, this is a murder case, right? Somebody came in and they were not of the right mind. Whatever was going on, they wouldn't be able to testify. But we're looking back at Bree in this interview and we're picking everything apart. I get it. He's got a hard job. Great lawyer. But don't let the fact that he's a great lawyer turn into and result that she's this diabolical, murderer. It just doesn't make any sense, right? So that's the thing as a jury, he's trying to sell you car A, I'm trying to sell you car B. Obviously, you have to make the choice, but you gotta look at everything, step behind everything, examine everything. Don't just, she said in the interview. There's a time in the interview where you can kind of tell she's in her own world. Yeah, they're asking questions. She's not even addressing the question. Where's her head most of the time? Is he dead? And I guess that's orchestrated. Mr. Alden will tell us. She's got a genuine concern of where her kids are. Which dovetails back into the whole theory that the concern is the safety of the children. And this guy's, I'm going to suggest to you, I've got an objection, walking around, with a pistol. And
yes, Your Honor, I am going to object for speculation, or that is, there facts, not in evidence.
Well, you want to speak?
I'll overrule.
I mean, I don't know. Go back and if he gets to put the video up and say, look, I do too. Go back and watch that. All right. What else? Well, at least in the video, you can say she's fully cooperative, right? And you would I think if a person is going to plan a murder like this, while he's on with 911, come on. Anyway, if this person's going to plan that, I don't think they're going to be all, open to talk. But she's doing the best she can. She tells him where the gun is, too, right? This isn't I don't know. Look, if she planned this, man, just, it's a train wreck. It's a train wreck. And again, I can hear. So, well, she doesn't have to have long to plan it. I don't know. There's no evidence of any premeditation. None. That you will be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt about. Let's bring Mr. Reasonable Doubt back in. Somebody can't maybe be guilty, probably is guilty. Well, I don't know, 51, 40. No. While I'm on it, reasonable doubt instruction says you have to have an abiding conviction of guilt. When Mr. Alderman flashed that up there, he didn't talk about that, did he? Twice in that instruction, an abiding conviction of guilt. We're talking about ultimately a huge decision. Big time in your life. You've made them. Career, marriage, kids. This isn't a, which soup spoon should I use? There's zero evidence in this case, zero evidence that could convince you beyond a reasonable doubt that this is premeditated. First degree murder? Come on, man. You know better.
Your Honor, I'm going to object.
Sustain as to, you know better. I'll strike that.
All right, again. If you get to a place where you want to find value in the interview, well, I mean, I'll spend some time there with you. You know, she says, I tried to block the door. And again, it gets back to, you saw the size of this guy. You see his arms? Try to block the door. Listen to that audio, man. What in the world's going on? The whole thing's reaching a tipping point. And she's blocking the door, doing the best she can. I guess that's on his arm. I don't know. No proof of that either. Anyway, I can't repeat myself too much here. All right, so she mentioned trying to block the door, said he was coming towards me. All right. Well, let me tell you how all that works. Mr. Alderman is not a reconstructionist. He's not an expert witness in this area. He's got it all laid out. And what I would challenge him on is he flashes up here. First bullet here, second bullet here, third bullet here, fourth bullet here. Oh, really? How do you know which one was the first one? You know where that one went. So that's a flaw. Additionally, he's looked at the entry wounds and he knows what those are. He knows how it all happened in there. He's your video and we've got the audio and let's wrap it up and go. The evidence is, and you don't need to be a reconstructionist for this, that there's a shot. How about being turned, right? Being turned. I mean, it's not like, excuse me, to turn my back. It's not like, there's no evidence, he's just here and it's just, right? The statement want you to believe that, he's locked in the garage, grabs the gun, burst in. So, no evidence of that. No evidence of that. All right.
I hope he's almost
I have
done.
to bring this in for a landing at some point, obviously.
How about crash? It's horrible.
The justifiable use of homicide. Self-defense. To stand your ground. Mr. Alderman spent some time on, has to be an imminent threat. An imminent threat. Well, that's existed for a while, right?
He had no weapon. He was locked in the garage.
If he's
Go ahead.
batters,
You better.
It's fairly eminent. Even in her look, this is back to if you believe, take any value whatsoever, because it's either you do or you don't with the interview. And if you do, he was coming towards me. That's relevant to the self-defense. The struggle, relevant to the self-defense.
He must have called Trooper Paul.
Defense of others, right? Also includes, the children. She's gotten to a point there that look, again, it's not going to surprise anybody that her concern, is the kids. Let's talk about, I'm going to spend a little bit of time with you on Eric Kuhn again.
That's not.
It's just the dichotomy, that the police, I don't believe you. Good luck. Just talk to them. And then you have the sophistication of, we're going to send 2 guys to Pennsylvania. We're not going to let them know. Oh, really? Why is that? Because we want to get a little bit off guard. But then, the defense isn't running around with little James Bond camera talking to witnesses, catching them off guard. Then talk about fair trial. That's some trickery, man. That's some subterfuge. Where was any of that when they were called to Bree's house? It just, look, he's just not right, not fair. Now, I was on the phone. I'm not a witness in this case. I hate to say I in front of a jury, particularly in a case like this. I was on the phone. I said, just walk it through. Just walk it through. Those officers didn't ask him a single question. Not a single question. Fly all the way up there. We're gonna do a little tactic, a little trick. We're gonna show up at 6 a.m. unannounced. I don't know. I didn't start the whole thing off by, hey, just walking through. They had no questions. And then the guy comes down here. Oh, how was it? She saved him. He's now saving her. He's going to be saved. And then he's ridiculed. It's kind of baffling. He's ridiculed, ultimately. You didn't say this. You didn't say that. I wasn't asked. I was told to walk through it. Was it 3 days after he listens to an event? Probably an event that he's not going to have anything like that the rest of his life. But we're going to use this stuff, man. We're going to use this stuff to convict your sister of first-degree murder. I don't know. I guess I should have spent more time with him. He said, 7 minutes, and then about this phone call. And then I said 45 minutes. And if you go back to the exchange, it's really on me. He was called all day long, right? That's the other thing here. Why is she calling her brother all day long? Again, it's not what you see when the police are there. I mean, this is a day. He's being called all day long. Anyhow, I just wanted to mention, that was probably more my fault. Okay, let's get to, I think, let me just look. The problem sometimes is, as a lawyer, you come into these and you say, I'm not going to chase rabbits. What that means for lawyers is that when the state goes first, and anything they say, you go after, you take the bait. Sometimes it can look like you're adding credibility to it. But it's hard, right? It's hard. All right, let's get to the jury instructions. And I apologize. I'm almost out of water. That'll get me to sit down and shut up. Killing with premeditation is killing after consciously deciding to do so. All right. The decision must be present in mind. Present in mind. There's no evidence. There's no evidence of that. Now, fair enough. Fair enough. How can you get into somebody's mind? Well, the way that, the way it's done is if you want to know what was on someone's mind at the time, anytime, what do you do? What's the only thing you can do? Is you go back before and see if the before is consistent with what you are trying to allege or find out in terms of their mind. And then you go afterwards. I mean, clearly, the law wouldn't be the way it is if there was no way to prove it. Right? I guess ultimately, Mr. Alderman's like, well, there's no way to prove that. All right, fine. We'll go on, right? The period of time must be long enough to allow reflection by the defendant. No, I mean, there's no evidence of any of this. Any of this. All right, we get to second degree, right? First degree is the low-hanging fruit. No evidence, okay? There's no evidence of premeditation. The second degree, is number 2, and you'll have these. Not a PowerPoint guy, I guess I should be, but be stumbling around with that probably. Is done from ill will, hatred, spite, or an evil intent. Back to the cycle that these two were on. What did she say in the interview room? And I don't care if she's in shock or not, frankly. She said about this. She says, he's my best friend. She tells her father, we had a good weekend. And while I'm on that, I don't know what weekend they're talking about. Right? There's good, there's bad. Where's the ill will, hatred, spite, evil intent? I mean, it's got to be pretty obvious and pretty paramount to get us there. All right, now, this is always tough for lawyers. Where you're going to end up, in my opinion. And look, here's the thing, man. Here's the thing. The jury room, it's like, I don't want to get too weird, but I am a lawyer. Doesn't mean I'm weird by definition. That place it's a place where you can say what you want to say, you can exchange things, and nobody is going to question it. People may have obviously they're going to be, interested, disappointed, or happy, or what have you, but there's not going to be any investigation. You're not going to show any math to anybody. You decide this case on all the evidence, and you apply your common sense. And you're going to get down to manslaughter. Colin Turner is dead. Bree intentionally committed an act or acts that caused the death of Colin Turner. Well, that one doesn't fly either. And again, what are we talking about here? We're talking about, what am I going to say? Beyond a reasonable doubt, right? Beyond a reasonable doubt, abiding conviction. Well, this love of her life, and I get you, I can hear you. Really, the love of her life? Yeah. But it's a cycle, right? It's a cycle. And then, why no ambulance for him? Why no ambulance? So I'm not conceding manslaughter, but I would expect that's where you're going to, where you're ultimately going to end up. And if you do, well, you do, but it's absolutely not first degree murder. Absolutely. It's not second degree murder. I've already talked about justifiable, use of deadly force. There was a struggle, right? There was a struggle. And again, we don't know. We don't know what's going on in that garage, man. We don't know. All right, there's a couple little ones, and then we're gonna bring it in for a landing. We give you rules of the road in terms of how to evaluate witnesses. And one of those is, did the witness seem to have an interest in the outcome of the case? Well, we've got investigator Rowell, who's still here. He has an interest in this case. So when the government comes up and says, well, the only witness really that would have a paramount interest is going to be Eric Kuhn. Well, I mean, sitting back there, man. I'm picking on him. God bless him. It's an open courtroom. But he's interested. He's interested. So this whole, they're just doing their job. However, you decided they just, okay. No, he's interested. And I'll kind of close. My son, I spoke at his wedding. And Dad, you prepared to speak at my wedding. You ought to ask if I'm prepared to stop speaking. So I do apologize to some degree for being repetitive, for weaving it through. It's a passionate affair. I get back to my oath and back to the responsibility. At any rate, sympathy, feelings of prejudice, there's no place, right? There's no place. There can't be. There just can't be. In your deliberations in terms of how you get there. I was so in shock from listening to the bullets, and I feel sympathy. No. And listen, this is no celebration of Colin's death. Okay, a tragedy under any circumstances. Right? This isn't necessarily Bree versus Colin. We're just going through the facts to determine what? To determine if the state can prove its case beyond and to the exclusion of any reasonable doubt. Now, like it or not, I think I've given it all I have. I think I've given it to Bree's family. I think I've given it to Randy, and most importantly, I think I've given it to Bree, and ultimately to you. Wasn't the greatest closing of my life. But it really kind of comes down to, is this woman here a murderer? Or was she a person that was protecting her children and got zero help from the police? And of course, ultimately, she was protecting herself, right? Try the case on the facts, the evidence, and you'll get there. You'll get there. If there was any logic to any of this, the not guilty on this verdict form, it should really say not proven. That's what it's about. Can the state prove their case? And those are some pretty lofty elements. Again, against reasonable doubt. Again, with the presumption of innocence. So when you get there, that's all right. Just say, look, man, there wasn't enough evidence for this element or this element. It just wasn't, there wasn't enough to convince me beyond a reasonable doubt. When you look at the whole picture, the whole totality of circumstances, and in a minute, I'm going to be done, I promise. And Mr. Alderman's going to get up here and he's going to say some bad things about me. I mean, not like a bad guy, but he's going to tell you that I was trying to sell you a bill of goods. He's going to say some bad things about Bree. And all I can say is, as I sit there and I hear what he's going to say, and I can't get back up, but you know what? I would if I could. And you know that. This case, it's not an easy case. It's not a she shot him. Let's go home. Got it all figured out. No. On behalf of Mr. Etheridge, and everybody's excited. You can tell the landing gears coming out, right? On behalf of Mr. Etheridge, family, and ultimately Bree Kuhn, we want to thank you. We do. Taking a week out of your life. That's not easy, right? But I want to thank you in advance for following the law, going behind the evidence, and ultimately reaching a just verdict, given everything, which is justifiably not guilty. Thank you.
Mr. Alderman?
Ladies and gentlemen, I realize the last thing you want to do right now is listen to another attorney. I promise you I'll keep this brief. Mr. Barnes talked about that Colin was walking around strapped. There is zero evidence of that. Okay, this case has nothing to do with Colin's gun. Nobody ever mentioned anything about that. He mentioned several times about shock. She's in shock. She's in shock. Okay, there's physical shock and emotional shock. Emotional shock is somebody threw me a surprise birthday party. I'm shocked. Physical shock is a response to something that has happened. She is not shocked of what happened. She's in physical shock about what has happened. He kept talking about a plan, a plan, a plan, a plan. I hope that every time he said that in your mind, you said, that is not required. Premeditation does not require a plan. The evidence shows this was a premeditated act. Physically, she had to go get her gun, come back, walk to the door with the intent of killing her husband. That's not a plan, but that is premeditation. She went to that door for one purpose, not to talk, not to argue, not to confront him, to kill him. That was her sole intent. Your decision should be based on the evidence. If you have any lingering doubts or questions about what happened to Colin or what took place in that garage, there's a very clear answer.
2 and 45 seconds. Sure, false emergency.
Hi, you guys been out to my house twice today, and then most recently the deputy talked to my wife and let me in the house, and then she locked me in the garage, and I tried to break my arm, and I'm just trying to get back inside.
What's your address, sir?
6184 Jenks, Jenks Drive. She's currently got me locked in the garage because earlier she broke both of the big doors, and then when I came out to fix it, had the meeting in the house earlier, she locked the door behind me. And what I said,
What was that?
she just got me.
She just shot it.
Thank you, Judge. Bree Kuhn murdered her husband, Colin. Now it's time for you to make that official. Found guilty of first-degree premeditated murder. Thank you.
Members of the jury, in just a few moments, you will be taken to the jury room by the court deputy. The first thing you should do is choose a foreperson who will preside over your deliberations. The foreperson should see to it that your discussions are carried on in an organized way and that everyone has a fair chance to be heard. It is also the foreperson's job to sign and date the verdict form when all of you have agreed on a verdict and to bring the verdict form back to the courtroom when you return. During deliberations, jurors must communicate about the case only with one another and only when all jurors are present in the jury room. If a juror goes to the restroom, the deliberation should stop until the juror returns. You are not to communicate with any person outside the jury about this case. Until you have reached a verdict, you must not talk about this case in person or through the telephone, writing, or electronic communication, such as an email or any other means. Do not contact anyone to assist you during deliberations. These communication rules apply until I discharge you at the end of the case. If you become aware of any violation of these instructions or any other instruction I have given in this case, you must tell me by giving a note to the court deputy. Now, if you need to communicate with me, send a note through the court deputy. If you have voted, do not disclose the actual vote in the note. If you have a question, I will talk with the attorneys before I answer, so it may take some time. You may continue your deliberations while you wait for my answer. I will answer any questions, if I can, in writing or orally here in open court. Now, during the trial, items will receive into evidence as exhibits. You may examine whatever exhibits you think will help you in your deliberations. All the exhibits, with the exception of the firearm, the magazine, and the ammunition, will be sent into the jury room with you when you begin to deliberate. If you wish to see the firearm, the magazine, or the ammunition, please request that in writing. Now, in closing, let me remind you that it is important that you follow the law spelled out in these instructions in deciding your verdict. There are no other laws that apply to this case. Even if you do not like the laws that must be applied, you must use them. For more than 2 centuries, we have lived by the Constitution and the law. No juror has the right to violate rules we all share. Now I have to do what is one of my more unpleasant tasks to do as a judge, and that is to let you know who the alternates are, because the alternates will not be able to go back and participate in deliberations. The alternates in this case are juror number 94, with the initials of CB, and juror number 58, with the initials of LB. If for those, for the alternate jurors, what I'm going to have you do is go back to the jury room and retrieve any personal belongings. I'm going to have you come back in here. I have a few closing comments to say to you at that time. So if y'all will go with the court deputy, and the court deputy will bring you back in here in just a minute. All the remaining jurors, please remain in your seats. All right, if the attorneys will approach. Okay. The alternate jurors are back in the courtroom. At this time, the remaining members of the jury, you may now take your notes and pens back with you, and you may begin your deliberations. We should have lunch there for you in the jury room now, and it is 12:23 p.m. So you now may begin your deliberations.
Please rise for the jury. Yeah, we'll follow you.
Okay, everybody can be seated. Okay, for the alternate jurors, I want to thank you so much for participating in this case. I don't know whether you're glad, mad, frustrated, angry, disappointed that you don't go back to be a part of the deliberations. But I want to express to you my sincere thanks, the attorney's thanks for being part of this. Having alternates for jury service is vital to our justice system operating. That's because in a case like this, we have to have 12 people. If you get less than 12, then we have to declare a mistrial and the entire process would have to start over. So that's why we have alternates, because we never want a situation where we do not have enough jurors in a particular case. And in fact, when we started the trial, we actually had 3 alternate jurors. And so we had an issue come up with a juror, but because we had an alternate, then that juror could be excused and then the alternate takes their place. Now, you may say, well, we were all here. Why did you make me go all week when you had enough people? That's because you never know what may happen during a trial, especially one that goes all week. You may have a juror get sick. You may have a juror have a family member get sick out of town. Somebody has car problems. There can be a whole host of things that might occur, and we just don't want to take that chance. In fact, in my own experience, I've had situations where I've had a juror get sick just before the closing arguments. And had we not had the alternate, then we would have had to start the whole thing over again. I've had another case where after the last witness testified, one of the jurors informed us they had previous experience and interaction with that witness. It was one of those situations where the witness's name was called at jury selection. They didn't recognize the name, but then when the witness took the witness stand, they recognized the face. And it was the last witness in the case. So again, if we had not had the alternates, we would have wasted an entire day. So I hope you understand why we do these things. But you being an alternate, even being an alternate, I hope this has been a learning experience for you. And I want to thank you so much for your attention. As the judge, not only am I paying attention to what's coming out on the witness stand, I'm paying attention to the attorneys, but I'm also paying attention to the jurors to make sure they are paying attention. I know both of you were. So I want to thank you so much again for your time and attention to this case. So at this time, you do enjoy some special privileges that are enjoyed by jurors, and that is you cannot be compelled to talk about the case whatsoever, and you're not required to talk about discussions about the case. We have recognized for many centuries our society has relied upon juries for consideration of difficult cases, and that anything having to do with this case can remain your private affair. You are now at liberty to speak to anyone about the case, but you are also at liberty not to speak to anyone about this case. That is left up to you individually as jurors. So I also think we do have their lunches. So if you want to grab your lunch, you can do that. You are certainly welcome to stay here at the courthouse and wait for the jury's verdict. Obviously, we don't know when that will be, but you certainly have the right to come back in the courtroom and see what the jury's verdict is. Or you, if you wish, you can leave now. So that's, again, I'm going to leave that up to you. So again, thank you so much for your time and attention to this case. This does count as jury service, so you shouldn't get another summons for at least a year. And with that, make sure you grab all your belongings, and I hope y'all have a great weekend. Thank you so much. Oh, I meant to ask, do y'all have any questions at this time? Okay, all right, thank you. Okay. Okay, everybody can be seated. Anything else we need to put on the record before we recess?
Nothing to say, Judge.
No, sir. All right, we'll be in recess until the jury comes back.
Please rise for the judge.
And I'll note with the word depraved, it is defined. It just is, I mean, any comments on that, Mr. Alden?
I almost just give up. I wish there was something that I could just put in the number that I'm looking for, because this little button just don't. Nana and the time thing, we struggle. We really do struggle, y'all.
Okay.
I apologize.
All right. So everybody's now present. So the jurors have come back with 3 questions. Here are the 3 questions. And then I'll read them out, and then we'll go one by one on how y'all want me to address those with the jurors. Number 1, what is the legal definition of depraved? Number 2, was there toxicology on Bree? If so, can we review? Number 3, why wasn't the body cam video of the Pennsylvania interview available for review? If it is, could we please review? Okay, so for number 1, any comments on that, Mr. Alderman?
No, sir. They have the jury instructions. I don't think we can add to those.
All right.
I would agree, Your Honor.
Okay. So if I say, for question number 1, I tell the jury you must follow the instructions that I've set out before you, is that, or you must follow the jury instructions as they are given?
Yes, sir. That's fine.
And I'll note with the word depraved, it is defined. It just is, I mean, depraved mind is defined in the jury instructions.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to say, I'm going to ask you to follow the jury instructions that were submitted to you. Is that all right?
Well, I think it's probably going to be all right, Judge, but.
All right. Well, Mr. Barnes, what do you propose I do?
Well, I would say the definition is in the jury instructions. Apparently they don't.
Well, they're just asking for the definition of depraved. So I guess when they're saying depraved mind, anyway,
Okay,
I mean,
fair enough.
do you want me to say it's defined?
Yes, you're fine.
No, Judge, I'll just say you have the instructions as I've previously given you.
Okay. All right. I'm going to ask you to read and follow the jury instructions I have given you. Okay. Number 2, was there toxicology on Bree? If so, can we review? My suggestion is that I only have to tell, I should just tell them, you must rely on the evidence that was presented during trial.
Perfect.
Yes, sir. All right. Number 3, why wasn't the body cam video of the Pennsylvania interview available for review? If it is, could we please review?
I'll say the same answer.
Agreed.
All right. So just say you must rely on the evidence presented. Do you want me to say that I'm not permitted to answer that question? You must rely on the evidence presented during the trial.
I wouldn't even say rely on, just you must make your decision based on the evidence that has been presented.
All right.
I don't think any extra commentary is needed.
Judge, I would prefer what you said, not permitted. It's almost taken collectively that we're like, hey, you're on your own, you got to.
Well, I mean, the other one, which I decided when I was going through them and I was just trying to make you notes. I mean, the truth of the matter, why wasn't it? Well, neither side admitted it in the evidence, but I don't know that I need to tell them that. So
I don't like that.
yeah, I'm just going to say you must rely on the evidence that was presented during the trial.
Yes, sir.
And just leave it. I think a lot of these, sometimes the less you say, the better.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any objections to what I'm going to tell the jury?
No, sir.
No, sir, nothing stated.
Okay, let's bring the jury in.
Please rise for the jury.
Okay, everyone can be seated. All right, members of the jury, you have submitted 3 questions. I'm just going to go in their order. The first question, what is the legal definition of depraved? I'm going to ask you to read and follow the jury instructions that I have given to you. For number 2, was there toxicology on Bree? If so, can we review? I'm going to answer that by saying you must rely on the evidence that was presented during the trial. Number 3, why wasn't the body cam video of the Pennsylvania interview available for review? If it is, could we please review? Again, I'm going to tell you, you must rely on the evidence presented during the trial. So with that, you may now resume your deliberations. Everybody be seated. The attorneys will approach. All right, we'll be in recess.
Thank you.
All right. I've got to look and see how long they were out before they had a question. So that was fast, short, and sweet. I'm sorry. I had to go off the camera. I was having my quick dinner here. I've got to get finished because I have to get up in the morning with the baby. With the baby girl. All right. Let's see what we got. All right. So I could be off in my math. Uh, I believe the jury has been back there for about 3 hours and 20 minutes. Now, in that 3 hours and 20 minutes, they had lunch. They had a question, so they had to come out, get the question answered, go back in. Um, I've got to look later and see how long they were in there before the question came. So let's see what we got. I'm pretty sure it's a verdict coming in. I don't know how y'all feel, but it's like, there's no way, no way could anybody find her not guilty. I'm just saying. And I still don't understand how her attorney can stand in a courtroom and literally lie to the jury. We're just waiting on Mr. Barnes. And so I'm probably just going to let us wait.
Sure.
I just wonder, does everybody else feel like I do, or am I the lone duck sitting out here in a pond with no friends? You know what's funny is I know one day we're going to disagree on some trials. To a lot of people become really hateful when that happens, which I don't understand. I think everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not going to say, hey, I don't understand how anybody could not convict her. But that's not directed at any specific person. Like if you feel she's innocent, I'm not berating you. It's nothing personal. But I feel so strong about this case. I feel so badly that women nowadays are trying to come up with a excuse that they killed their spouse or their partner or whatever. This girl sitting right here at this table, I tell you what, she's one of them same women that you would hear about that drove her kids. Well, she got out the car, but let her kids stay in the car as it went over a cliff because she wasn't going to die. but she wasn't going to let her husband have those children. Children to her were possession. Why didn't she just leave? Oh, because he watches the children. I mean, it just don't make a whole lot of sense to me. So, people may see it wrong, that I'm wrong. I mean, and you are definitely entitled to your own opinion. No matter what, you don't have to agree, but just whatever you do, just don't be disrespectful to others for their opinions, because we all have different reasons for what we feel. I can't tell y'all how come I'm so sure that she's guilty and that she's got such an evilness in her. I wouldn't want to meet her, but I feel it. I can't tell you why I feel it, um, but I feel it. So, and I had this on regular time so that we can hear everything well.
Let me just say this before the jury comes in. For the people that are in the audience, I'm going to ask that you show no emotion, regardless of what the verdict is. If you don't think you can control your emotions, I'm going to ask you to step outside, and then somebody can go outside and tell you the verdict. Um, Also, if you do not heed to these instructions, then you could be held in contempt and face up to 6 months in the county jail. So if you do not believe you can control your emotions, then I'm going to go ahead and ask you to leave the courtroom at this time.
Can I talk to them after the fact without knowledge that
I'm going to give them an instruction on that. Okay. Okay, let's bring the jury in.
I did not hear that question. I mean, yeah, question. Oh, Lord. I was going to say, wait, I didn't hear that answer. Y'all forgive me. I've taken my medicine already for this evening because I have to get up in the morning with my busy grandbaby. She's precious. She's 3. She's my last grandbaby. My oldest one, I think she's 25 now. No, I think, wait, 24. I think she's 24. And then her sister's 22. My grandson is fixing to turn 17.
Please rise for the jury.
Those are my son's children. My daughters go from age 10 to 3. We have a 10, 7, and 3. The 3-year-old, she is something else. She's the Randy. When you see a warning on something and you think, you shouldn't have to warn a parent for that, she's why there's warnings on everything. She is into
Okay, everyone
everything.
can be seated. Members of the jury, my understanding is you have reached a verdict. Is that correct? Okay, if you'll hand the verdict form to court security.
I'll speed it up after this, but I want us to hear this in real time.
Madam Clerk, if you will publish the verdict.
State of Florida versus Bree Kuhn, case number 21 CF 1301. Verdict. We, the jury, finds as follows as to the offense charged in the indictment. Guilty of first-degree premeditated murder as charged.
Yes,
So
that's
say
what I'm
we all,
talking
this
about.
27th day of September 2024.
Why don't they stand anymore
Juror
for their
number
judgment?
109, AD, foreperson.
Do any of the attorneys wish the jurors to be polled?
Nothing to say, Judge.
Yes, Your Honor. All right, Madam Clerk, if you'll poll the jurors, please, by
You used to have to
number.
stand for your.
Juror number 185, TR. Is this your verdict as well as the verdict of the jury as a whole? Juror number 198, IO. Is this your verdict as well as the verdict of the jury as a whole?
Yes.
Juror number 77, TS. Is this your verdict as well as the verdict of the jury as a whole?
Yes.
Juror number 263, JJ. Is this your verdict as well as the verdict of the jury as a whole?
Yes.
Juror number 112, AB. Is this your verdict as well as the verdict of the jury as a whole?
Yes.
Juror number 195, EK. Is this your verdict as well as the verdict of the jury as a whole? Juror number 216, DJ. Is this your verdict as well as the verdict of the jury as a whole?
Yes.
Juror number 44, AK. Is this your verdict as well as the verdict of the jury as a whole?
Yes.
Juror number 267, WP. Is this your verdict as well as the verdict of the jury as a whole?
Yes.
Juror number 122, JO. Is this your verdict as well as the verdict of the jury as a whole? Juror number 66, MS. Is this your verdict as well as the verdict of the jury as a whole? Juror number 109, AD. Is this your verdict as well as the verdict of the jury as a whole?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I wish to thank you for your time and consideration of this case. I also wish to advise you of some very special privileges enjoyed by jurors. No juror can ever be required to talk about the discussions that occurred in the jury room except by court order. For many centuries, our society has relied upon juries for consideration of difficult cases. We have recognized for hundreds of years that a jury's deliberations, discussions, and votes should remain their private affair as long as they wish it. Therefore, the law gives you a unique privilege not to speak about the jury's work. Although you are at liberty to speak with anyone about your deliberations at this time, you are also at liberty to refuse to speak to anyone. A request to discuss either your verdict or your deliberations may come from those who are simply curious, from those who might seek to find fault with you, from the media, from the attorneys, or elsewhere. It will be completely up to you to decide whether to preserve your privacy as a juror. With that, again, I thank you for your time and attention to this case. You served a very important function in our judicial system. As I said in jury selection on Monday, there are many countries in the world today that their citizens do not enjoy the right to a jury trial, but we here in America still do, and you were part of that over the course of this week. So with that, again, thank you for your time and attention, and you're now excused.
Please rise for the jury.
Okay, so I know that we are going to go right into impact statements. I don't know if there's a break between it or not. So bear with me and I'll find that out. Okay, I'm not going to cut any of it out because we are going straight to witness statements. And I have seen them. It's extremely hard to watch. Colin's mother and father. I'm not sure if I can do it yet with dry eyes or not. Each time I've watched this, I've cried. So that's just a warning. If you're a really big empath, it's going to make it very difficult for you to watch this without tissue because your heart is right there with these parents. I mean, okay, ready? It may repeat a sentence or two. Me and my getting my spot right.
Okay, everybody can be seated. All right, is the state ready to proceed with sentencing?
Yes, sir.
Is the defense ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Alderman. And of course, security, if you could move the lectern back, or are you going to have them go on the witness stand?
It's up to you, Judge, however.
Look how she just kind of slouched in her chair like that. She has no remorse, by the way.
All right, Mr. Alderman, you may proceed.
Ma'am, would you please state your name for the record?
Teray Turner.
And how are you related to Colin?
He's my son.
And you had prepared a statement you wish to read to the judge, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
Your Honor. This is a letter I never imagined having to write. When I think of the impact the loss of Colin has made on my life, it is difficult to put into words. The grief can wash over at any time. Of course, there are the expected times of grief, such as Mother's Day, his birthday, or the anniversary of his death. There are also unexpected times, like a mother-son dance at a wedding, or when asked how many children I have. There is still a sense of unreality. I can't believe this has happened. I've watched my husband suffer as he misses his son. He is so proud to tell people that Colin was in his last semester of school for his degree in electrical engineering, following in Don's footsteps, and had been accepted into Johns Hopkins for his master's. Colin earned this degree online while being a stay-at-home dad following his retirement from the Marines. Our daughters have had the shock of unexpectedly losing their brother, and as a mother, their pain is my pain. But the greatest impact has been watching how this loss has impacted Colin's younger children, John, JP, and Lainey. We have custody of them and expect to raise them for the rest of our lives. It's been 3 years, and they're still fearful that we will die and leave them once again without parents. They worry that if we bicker, one of us may kill the other. They still ask if we have guns in the house, though they know the answer is no. No matter how many times we remind them that killing a loved one is very rare, their reality tells them differently. We talk about their dad often, but they'll never really know him as they were so young when he was killed, only 3 and 4 years old. And now, not only has Bree Kuhn killed our son, brother, father, but she's done her best to destroy his reputation. I know Colin was not a perfect man. There is no such thing, but he was not the evil man she described. He was a man who loved his wife and tried his hardest to make things work. He loved his children, retiring from the Marines early so he wouldn't miss any part of their young lives. And now he's not there for them at all due to Bree's actions. We believe Bree would do anything to get her way. She killed our son because he wanted custody of the children, and I believe she would kill again. Our hope is that Bree will receive a life sentence without parole. We plan to adopt JP and Lainey and give them the security to know they don't need to worry about changing families again. Our faith has carried us along this journey, and we know the Lord will continue to carry us. He is willing that all should repent and be saved from their sins, including Bree. That is also our hope, that she would be made new in Christ and have eternal life with him. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions, Mr. Etheridge? No question. Okay. Well, thank you, ma'am. You may step down.
Yeah, I don't think I could. I'm a Christian, but I just don't think I could.
Mr. Alderman, you may proceed.
Sir, please state your name for the record.
Donald Turner.
And how are you related to Colin?
I'm his dad.
And you had prepared a statement that you wanted to read to the judge, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you also bring some pictures of Colin that you wanted to show?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Won't be nearly as polished as my wife. Bree has deprived the world of a loving son, brother, father, grandson, friend, and leader in the first few days after Colin died. And since then, we have been so blessed with all the people that reached out to us and said how Colin had impacted them in such a positive way. Neighbors, Marine friends, people we had never even met. We saw the love that he gave to the world. And the world desperately needs loving leaders like Colin now more than ever before. We call this God's light in the darkness. The darkness has not won. We know how this movie ends. The light wins. Hallelujah. There's the Marine that never dreamed of going to college, who is now about to complete his engineering degree, all because Colin gave him the confidence that he could do it. There's the Marine that would not accept payment for work on Colin and Bree's house because he was honoring Colin. And there's the Marine that told of a time that he overheard a conversation between Colin and me. We were having a very casual conversation, and the Marine said, "Who are you talking to?" And he said, "That's my dad. He's my best friend." 12 Marines traveled from as far as California to attend Colin's memorial. We were blessed with a son for 33 years, and I know many people are not that fortunate. So many stories of people working with Colin and saying he was the best leader they ever knew. He was only 2 classes away from completing his electrical engineering degree, and I'm happy to say that his school granted his degree posthumously, and I will have that hanging on my wall forever. He had already been accepted into a master's degree program in electrical engineering. And oh, the love that he has for those kids. Kylie, Brody, JP, and Lainey are thriving. As the song says, if love is an ocean, they are all drowning. Colin even took on the challenge of homeschooling Bree's daughter, Kylie, during COVID. He always treated Kylie like his own daughter, as we treat her as granddaughter today. Neighbors of theirs told us they never saw Bree doing anything with the kids, but Colin was often playing with them. Bree's parents told us more than once that Colin was the best thing that ever happened to her and to helped with her stability. When we first heard of Colin's death, without hesitation, we knew we had to care for JP and Lainey. I'm happy to say they are thriving. They're doing well academically and in their citizenship. They're surrounded by church, neighbors, friends that love them deeply and will do anything for them. Colin's friends keep in touch with us and offer whatever they can do to help the kids. My prayer for them each night is that they will know God, love God, serve God, and his children. I'm confident that Kylie, Brody, JP, and Lainey will make a loving impact on the world. All our family ever tried to do was love on Bree and make her part of our family, but she couldn't accept that for some reason. Bree has never once showed remorse to us, sympathy, empathy, comfort, or consolation. If Bree were to go free at some point, I am concerned for our lives. She's continued to have an adversarial relationship with us, and I believe she would seek out to murder us as well. Her personality is such that she must win at all costs. I have the same fear for Colin's son from another marriage, Brody. Most important part of this whole letter, of one thing I am certain, we serve a God that loves us so much that he gave his son to make a way that we could spend eternity with him and with our loved ones. I am confident that I will spend eternity with Colin. Our prayer is that God would make himself real to Bree and her family, and that she will join our eternal family. I have some pictures, Your Honor.
I just,
Any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Alderman, do you want this as part of the record?
I can't imagine
Yes,
having,
Okay, we'll admit those as,
Impact statements.
yes, as impact statements, yes. Mr. Alderman?
No other witnesses from the state, Judge.
Okay. Mr. Etheridge, Mr. Barnes?
No, we have no evidence to present to the court.
Okay.
Judge, and this is Trevay's impact statement.
Okay, all right.
She's already read.
Okay, we'll make this additional victim impact statement for the record.
what, Bree's brother's not going to talk? He'd get up there and fill us full of crap.
Okay, anything else from either attorney?
Not from the state, Judge.
For the evidence of testimony,
Okay. Having been found guilty of first-degree premeditated murder, the court imposes the following sentence. I'm going to adjudicate her guilty, sentence her to life in prison. There'll be $518 in mandatory court costs, a $210 fine, for a total of $728. She would credit for all time served. That's the judgment sentence of the court. She has 30 days in which she can appeal. If she cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for her. Anything else from any of the attorneys?
Not from the state, Judge.
Okay. Court is adjourned.
please rise for the judge.
The judge gave her the most stringent. Now, where was her family to talk about her good things and how she had just been so mistreated and because life hadn't been fair to her, it had her in this position. You know, it's everybody else's fault, somebody else's doing, all these issues. What were those people? Where's your brother with his smudge on his glasses? I want to know where he is, little shit. All right, folks, hold up one second. I'm just curious. Honestly, I really am just curious. I've always got to have a specific pen, but how many people honestly believe that she expected people to believe what came out of her mouth? I mean, really and honestly, I thought she was. How could they expect us to buy their BS? That's my question. I don't know. I don't know. But I do feel like he got justice. And even though she's going to appeal, which I don't know on what grounds she could even attempt it, she got, in my opinion, she doesn't have a chance in hell. Now, I'm saying that, and I hope it's true because I just couldn't imagine if she got out. So I hope y'all have enjoyed this trial. As I said, I can't believe that I missed a trial, but it had to be because Sarah Boone. It's or you know, I honestly I heard about this Navy petty officer shooting her husband in Florida, and thought I ought to look into that, and never did. And then, you know, I am all wrapped up in the Karen Reed information. I figure if these people are going to make her go to trial, the more people that go through that first trial and find anything that would make you question or jump out at you, and you point it out, I just have to feel that somebody on her team is watching, and it would, if it was anything that would help, it would resonate. And so I also got into, I had to watch Sarah Boone. Now Sarah Boone, I didn't watch all her garbage letters and stuff. I watched a couple, you know, but yeah, there's a lot that I have to say about that still. So, and then I came across this and I'm like, wow, okay, I remember vaguely hearing about that. I don't think I knew he was on the phone with 911. If I did know, I forgot. But you got Sarah Boone, and this is my opinion of what happened to George. You see, I think Sarah and George were drinking, and I think they got drunk. I think they got real drunk. And I think Sarah tapped his leg and said, "You're it." And then she went and hid in the bathtub slash shower. I don't think George wanted to play the game. He just goes on in the living room. Sarah waits and waits, gets madder and madder. She comes flying down those stairs, and George is just hanging out in the living room. And I think that's where the issues began. I think that's why the issues began. Now, as far as him getting in the suitcase, was he doing that as a joke just to say he could fit because he was trying to get Sarah to get off his back? That's a possibility. What I find amazing is we don't have any video of that, right? Because think about it for a minute. You know, they love to document everything they do. Sarah she has to make sure that he's entertained all the time. See, I can't do this right here. I got to do mine. So I'm going to cut the other. What, I don't even know what portion I can play now of what I just said. I will. I will be doing more on Sarah Boone. Let me fix this. Y'all have a good one. I hope you enjoyed the trial with me. And let me know what you thought. I mean, maybe I've just turned into a mean old witch. Might be. Y'all have a good night. I mean, you know that they can form things to where it looks differently than it really is. But when you get up there and actually ball face lie, how are we supposed to trust attorneys? I mean, where does where is that line drawn? The other thing that I find really interesting, this Bree and hey everybody, welcome to a question.